Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode. Uh-oh. Hold your guys' horses. What is going on? Okay, am I live? Okay, perfect. Welcome. Sorry, there was a weird thing that made me feel like I wasn't live for a second. Anywho, welcome to another episode of Evan's News. So today, I don't really know what I want to talk about. There hasn't been any big news headlines that I've seen that necessarily necessitates streaming for you guys. However, boom. I can drink the rest of this bottle. However, still want to talk to you guys. Still missed you guys. Still missed chat. I love talking. I love streaming. I love talking to everybody. So today we got a couple of things. Oh no, I guess we don't have anything to talk about. Sorry. I'm used to having my routine, what I say to you guys, what we get into. So I don't really have anything I want to talk about. Except for one thing that I definitely want to talk about, and that is my disdain for pedestrians. I ride my bike to work a lot, right? And there is a dedicated trail it's a mixed-use pedestrian and biking trail. And there's a bunch of signs that say yield to pedestrians, yada, 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 which I think is right. Obviously, I'm a bigger, faster vehicle. Gotta yield to the pedestrians. Shoot, I'm already out of breath. But here's the thing. All right, we're going to get paints up. We are going to get paints up. Okay, so let's say this is your 2-lane bike path, right? Or it's not really bike path. It's mixed use, all right? Hold on, I got a better idea. Boom, now we're talking. See, look at this. Straight lines. This is what we're using technology on Evan's News. Evan's Technology News. Oh, shoot, that's going to come back to bite me. Hold on. Let's do this. All right, then we're gonna paint all this black. Gonna put a couple of lines right here. All right. So this is what the bike path looks like, right? You got we're gonna put green on both sides because I'm lazy and I don't want to draw everything, right? Green on both sides, so it's grass and everything, and you got a bunch of people, just walking about, and you got some bicyclists on here too. So you know what? Hold on, I have a better idea. We're gonna make this gray instead. Perfect, gray. That way, it just makes it easier to have everything as a backdrop. All right. So let's say there's me. I'm biking down the path, right? Boom, boom, and there's me right here. Just biking down the bike path. And so there's me. I'm biking down the bike path, just going around. And oftentimes, especially on the weekends when I'm biking to work, there will be a lot of people out on the trail, right? So you got a lot of people walking right here. A lot of people walking over here, right? A lot of people on the trail during these days. So here's me, biking at maybe like 10 miles, maybe 12, 15 at the most miles an hour on the trail. I do not bike particularly fast. However, there's still an issue in that sometimes, right? Most of the times there'll be a little bit of a gap that I can, come in between these pedestrians and swerve around them, right? No big deal. Everybody's happy. They get to walk at their own pace. I get to bike around them. Everything's good. Oops. Don't know what happened there. However, there are times when that doesn't happen. People will, with their family, right? There's 2 people taking up this whole lane, right? And they won't be walking like this in front of each other. What are we talking about? We are talking about why we need infrastructure that accommodates pedestrians, then accommodates bicycles, and then accommodates cars. We don't need a universal thing. You know what we have when we have cars and bikes on the same road, or pedestrians and bikes on the same road? Just doesn't work. It's just not good. We have a bunch of different things going at a bunch of different speeds trying to, work with one another. I'm just going over how annoying that is. And on a practical level, it's really annoying because when I'm trying to bike, right, I have a bunch of people, they will be taking up this whole lane, right? there's no way to stay in the correct lane for me and get around them, right? Because they're walking like this, they're walking, next to each other. It's really hard to go around them. Or what's even worse is if you'll have some idiot family, right, where they take up the whole path, the entire trail. All 5 of them are walking next to each other or whatever. You got like 4, 5, 6 people all together hoarding up the whole path. So other pedestrians have to walk off the path to get around them. It's like, how do you not have any perception of everything going around? Like, just walk behind each other for a little bit. It's a busy path, I understand. But more than that, is that this creates a situation and there's no way for me as a bicycle to get around them because they've taken up both lanes of traffic going opposite directions of each other. They just have disregarded all that, and it makes it hard for bicycles to get around them. So I'll be coming up behind them, right? You got your people right here. And I'm like, on your left, because I pass on the left. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to pass on the left. And they just don't understand. They're just like, I don't know what happens. They just look around like idiots. They don't understand like that I'm saying on your left, meaning that there is a bike on your left going around you. But they don't understand that. There are these people, right? I said on your left. And it was like a choke point in the road, right? To where it got really thin. So no matter what, I'm used to going really slow on this part because it's just such a thin slice of the road that it's barely big enough for like one-way traffic, right? But anyway, so I'm like, on your left, they keep walking. On your left, they keep walking, taking up the whole path, the 2 of them, right? No way of getting around them. And I'm like, on your left, and then they turn around and they're like, and then they like move over to the side while giving me a dirty look as I pass around them. Like, dude, seriously? You were taking up the whole path. What are you doing? Why are you acting like this? Extreme pain stream. This is literally the extreme pain stream, the most extreme pain stream, the giga extreme pain stream. This is me just ranting about. We'll get on to the I can argue why there are sociological reasons that we need to have different paths for different forms of traffic, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, my personal opinion is that different types of traffic don't go well with each other. Bike and pedestrian traffic don't go super duper hand in hand, especially on a thin slice of trail where there's no way of getting around the pedestrians. Pedestrians and cars don't go very well together. Bikes and cars do not go very well together. How many times have you been driving around and there's some dude on a bicycle like swerving around, like just like he's too slow to where you can, like he's too slow so you have to slow down for him, but also that you can't just go around them. Instead you have to just be behind them the whole time because you can't safely go around them because they're swerving in and out of cars and everything. And it's just like, then they do weird things where they just make random turns and everything. They don't understand that bicycles need to follow the rules of the road just like cars do. They think that there's some special like bicycle rules that they need to pay for. That's why we need dedicated bike lanes, because bikes and cars also don't go with each other. We can talk about how bike, it's more dangerous for bikes to be around cars. It's more dangerous and blah, 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 blah. Like, yeah, I understand that. But at the end of the day, it's just really annoying to have all these types of traffics go in with each other. Because I'm tired of having to slow down or watch some idiot bicyclist just cut me off when I'm a 2-ton piece of fucking mass. And they're just like some 300-pound, them and their bike, 300 pounds in total. Like, what am I going to do? I'm obviously going, if you swerve in front of me and don't have time to react, I am going to kill you. That's just the laws of physics. That's the way physics works. And so yeah, at the end of the day, what I think, the reason we need different forms of traffic, different paths for different types of traffic, is because it's annoying to have to go around pedestrians while I'm on a bike, while they're all taking up the whole path, and I'm screaming, on your left, and they're just like dumbfounded, like looking around into the sky. They don't understand what's going on. And and you're just kind of trying your best to slow down for them because you can't get around them without hitting them, or there's more traffic going this way, so everybody's trying to accommodate for all these idiots that don't understand that they shouldn't be taking up every single lane of traffic. But no, they don't care about that. Anywho, you guys understand what's going on. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. Going on a little bit of rant, got a little bit flustered there, guys. Sorry. But yeah, no. Especially there was this family and they were like letting their kids swerve in and out of these lines. There was one point on a narrow bridge, I was trying to cycle over it, and like the entire family, I'm not kidding you, was just stopped on the bridge, taking up the whole bridge like this. All of their heads like this. I don't know, I think their kid like fell off their bike or something, but in that case, like, move over to the side of the road. Don't take up the whole goddamn bridge. Like, other people are going around. I understand your kid fell, they're hurt, you want to tend to them, blah 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 blah. But I'm trying to get to work, man. Like, I've got to get around your kid. Like, your kid fell, kids fall. That's how it is. They get scrapes and bruises, blah 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 blah. But I've got to get around them. So please do not take up the entire bridge, dude. Like, how am I supposed to get around you guys? But yeah, that is the point of this rant. Is that I think what we should have dedicated infrastructure for different types of traffic. I understand that it's not really a feasible thing in the long run. Bike and pedestrian trails are always going to be a thing, and these are always just going to be frustrations of that. But we need dedicated bike lanes away from sidewalks and away from traffic, with a little bit of a barrier between them and traffic, because we don't want cyclists swerving in and out of traffic. I mean, when I'm cycling through a city or something, and the bike lane just ends, and suddenly I have to like merge into traffic or whatever. Hi, hello Tennessee. How's it going? It's going very well. And suddenly I have to just like swerve into traffic because my bike lane ended. I understand that, the drivers are annoyed with me. I just had to like come into traffic out of nowhere. Basically, like putting out my left hand saying, "Hey, I'm coming in." But now I'm like trying to bike around cars, and those cars are scary. Like, if you've been biking on the road, that's nice, Tennessee. If you've been biking on the road, you're going down the road and there are a bunch of like cars going by you at 40 miles an hour, that's pretty scary. Even if you have like a little dedicated bike lane on the side, it's still not enough. I would prefer if there was a little couple barriers there to keep the cars away from me. Anything that doesn't make me feel like I'm gonna get slammed by a car. It's just a car, Evan. It's a car going 40 miles per hour, and I'm a I don't know, 40-pound bike. Or 200 pound bike. So that's where we are. That's the thing. Yes, indeed. How drunk are you, Tennessee? But yeah. I have nothing else to say about that. That was my rant that I really wanted to go on today. Is my rant that I have always had a thing against like people that take up the whole path, people that are like walking slow and then also taking up the whole path. It's like, not only am I trying to walk around you, but you're taking up the whole path and doing it extremely slowly. Like, dude, like, I don't care if you're gonna walk slow. Drunk enough to where my girlfriend is making me sad. I'm sorry, Tennessee. That sucks. I hope that gets better. Yeah. So that is my rant. Oops, sorry guys. Because I mean, how many times, like, even with cars and everything. Oops, sorry. Driving when cyclists are in the road is really annoying because you're constantly thinking like, oh shoot, I don't want to hit this cyclist. I've got to do everything I can to not hit this cyclist. I have to yield to the cyclist. Just makes it really annoying to drive. Yeah, so we need to change our infrastructure so we get rid of these annoyances, and we can all be happier, essentially. It would be happier if I wasn't always annoyed with cyclists and pedestrians. They weren't annoyed with me. I can make you more sad. I'm sorry. Oh my goodness, guys. Listen. Here on Evan's News stream, the Evan's News stream, we are about happiness. I want to make sure my viewers are happy. So what can we do to increase the happiness of this stream? I want to make Simeon and Tennessee happier. Serena, I want to make you happier. I want to make everybody in chat happier. That is what I love to do. That is what I love. That's what I love. None of your viewers are happy. Shut up. Yes, they are. They love they love the Evans News stream. Anywho, allow me to talk with you on voice chat. Keep your clothes on. Okay. I will indeed keep my clothes on. I never said I wasn't happy, but thanks for calling me out. Hold on. I said everybody's happy on the Evans News live stream. I said everybody's happy on the Evans News live stream. Everyone's happy to be in chat. We're all extremely happy. And Tennessee, I will not let you join me in voice chat. No. Anywho, I don't know what else to talk about. So guys, while you guys look at my beautiful little thing right there, let's see on YouTube what are some fun things. There's a lot of PragerU videos up on my thing. You guys want to watch some cool stuff? So I love city planning. So this is my YouTube page just for you guys. This is taking a turn, I know. Let's all come back to being extremely happy on the Evans News live stream. Everybody, do not worry. Do not worry. We're going back. We're going to be very happy here. It's all good vibes here on the Evans News live stream. But this is my YouTube For You page, or my homepage, right? This is where I get everything. So this is specifically for the account I use to post Evans News. I have a separate YouTube account where I just use for personal viewing. But look, we got some Lexus right here. We got some PragerU. Goodbye Columbus Day. Oh, phooey, so sad. Adam Curry on the emergence of the metaverse. Can we watch a movie? No, I'll get copyright striked. How big can cities get? We got American Indians are still getting a raw deal. Yeah, I would say so. But I wonder what they mean by that. I would be interested to see there. Or we can watch some left-leaning content. I love this guy, guys. I want to show you this guy's videos because this guy, he talks more about city planning and public transportation. Evan, let's work on our cars together. I'm taking auto classes. Working on cars is very fun. I'd hit up Ollie to see if you can come with us to the discount auto shop. But this guy, Adam something, he is somebody that I like to watch that deals more with city planning and public transportation. I really like his videos. Really good stuff what this guy does. So the Hyperloop will never work, and here's why. We can do some of that. You guys, you know what? We're just going to keep going. We're going to see what kind of YouTube videos we can watch together. Yeah. I don't know what else. Oh, look, it's the Evans News live stream. Let's see, let's do this one. I haven't seen this one.
The Hyperloop is the third thing Elon Musk is famous for.
Hyperloop,
closely behind
1,200 kilometers an hour. Oh my God, how much is that in meters per second? 1,200 divided by 3.6. Let me see. Sorry, 3.6. 333 meters per second. Wow, that's extremely fast. But let's watch this guy's video.
SpaceX. But the thing is...
Oh, shoot, wait, hold on. I know you guys can hear it, but I literally cannot hear it, so...
Vacuum trains are a century-old idea already. And Elon Musk's idea, the air cushion-based system, the hockey table in a vacuum tube, it's just not a viable solution. And so when Elon Musk made the idea open source and then let all these private companies start messing with it, predictably all of them abandoned the air cushion technology. All of them now use maglev. With that, it's safe to say that Elon Musk has contributed absolutely nothing to this project. He just threw the idea out there with great fanfare, made it open source, and then let some private companies do whatever the hell they want.
Elon Musk does this all the time. He will bring up an idea, right? We'll also, you know what? You guys know a really dumb Elon Musk idea? Elon Musk rocket transportation? Is that what I would call it? So let me see. Here we go. Yeah, this thing, guys. This is really stupid. We're gonna watch this. This is one of the dumbest fucking things in the world. Oh, I absolutely hate Elon Musk too. I used to be a really big fan of Elon. I used to think he was super cool. Now I realize that he's just a fucking moron that can't really do anything. His ideas are just that futuristic bullshit that we always see from, the tech bros and everything, that let's just make it shiny and look really futuristic, and then it'll be obviously better than what we have already. Like, I mean, sometimes old technology just works better, or at least fundamentally old concepts, I should say, not necessarily old technology. Tell me if it's too loud for you guys too, by the way. I don't know how loud you guys are hearing it. There we go, New York to Shanghai, departs at 7 o'clock a.m. Distance, so they're going to travel 7,000 miles, or 11,000 kilometers, in 39 minutes. That sounds great. Let's see how he's going to do it. So you take your dope futuristic yacht. First of all, if we were really into the futurism, I would take a laser beam over to the island and not this stupid boat. Boats are old technology. We've been floating on water for millennia. Let's get out of here. Like, I mean, isn't it dumb that we still use boats to transport things? It's old technology, guys. We've been transporting things on boats for years. Instead, we should just put it on a rocket that will take you from New York over to the rocket landing. A smaller rocket, one that doesn't use as much sound and everything. Really futuristic, or a futuristic looking boat, one might say. Like one that just glides across the water, flies across the water. That would be way cooler. That'd be way dope. I don't understand. Like, boats are just old technology, guys. Takes you to this floating platform out in the middle of the ocean. And by the way, guys, rocket power travel would need this, because the sound and the logistics of having a rocket means it cannot land anywhere near a major city, or any settlement for that matter. Just because the sound waves by itself would just destroy buildings. That seems very inefficient. It is indeed extremely inefficient. This whole process is very inefficient. We're going to talk about why. He's going to take you to the rocket. The rocket would have to be, why not just launch from the shore? The problem is, if you launched it in the city, is that the sound waves and everything from the rocket would just destroy anything in the area. Like, that's I think that's Manhattan over there. I might be mistaken. I think it is, yeah. New York to Shanghai, yeah, it is. That would destroy the windows all over. The boat ride over there is longer than a flight, lol. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because the thing is, this rocket is really close to Manhattan. Way too close to New York. The sound waves would start breaking windows and everything. Like my deck of... Oh yeah, middle of buttfuck nowhere. Yeah, that would be where they have to do it. It would also have to be in the middle of buttfuck nowhere, in the middle of the ocean too, by the way, because that's way too close to Manhattan. The sound waves by itself, the energy required to make something blast off into the air, to break the atmosphere, creates so many sound waves, creates like waves too on the ocean, I would assume, and you need to let them dissipate over time. That it would just break, the windows over there. I think Elon said that it would need to be 20 miles offshore to be safe. That is not 20 miles offshore. 20 miles offshore, you can't see Manhattan. You can't see any of the skyline or anything. Meaning, you would need to go over on a boat for 20 miles. Guys, boats do not travel very fast. They do not. What is the fastest ship? Let me see. Fastest ship in the world. I actually don't know. The Francisco. Yeah, okay, guys. So the fastest ship in the world is the Francisco, capable of hitting speeds of 58.1 knots, which I think knots are a little more, are like 1.1 miles per hour. Let me see. Yeah, what is a knot to mile per hour? 1.15 miles per hour on land. So 1 knot is 1 nautical mile per hour. And that's about 1.15 miles on land. Okay, that makes sense. It's just a demo. I understand. 57 miles per hour about, yeah. So that's 58.1 knots is about 58 miles per hour. It would be more than 58 miles per hour, but yeah, that's what you're looking at. Or shoot, yeah, 58. I'm so confused. Yeah, no, absolutely, right? Yeah, it'd be more miles per hour. 58 miles per hour abouts is the fastest ship in the world. Ships don't move very fast. Going across, so the fastest boat is slower than a kid who wants candy. Indeed, a kid who wants candy can reach speeds of at least Mach 5. So instead, what Elon should do is have a sled, with a bunch of kids that want candy, and make them rush across the world. That would be much better. They run at Mach 5 after all. But yeah, so the fastest ship in the world can travel at 58 knots. Have to go 20 miles. That's probably going to take what? I don't know. 20, 30 minutes probably. It's less than 60 miles an hour. So yeah, probably about 20, 25 minutes or so. That's a long time. Added onto the flight time. And on top of that time, so you have to add an extra hour onto the flight time. So it's not really 37 minutes. It's more like an hour and 30. And that's just the travel time. Just travel time, guys. Take into account security, waiting in lines and everything, getting everybody strapped in, getting the rocket ready to launch. It's probably going to be like 4 or 5 hours in order to get there, I would assume. That seems really wasteful. 27,000 kilometers an hour? Oh my god, how much is that? 27,000 divided by 3.6. Sorry. So to convert kilometers an hour to meters per second, 7,500 meters per second. Sheesh. Oh my god, let's just do some simple physics, guys. Let's see. So let's say, 7,500, we're going to find the acceleration that you're going through. 7,500 meters per second, divided by 36 minutes. 6 minutes, 2 seconds is divided by 2,100. This is assuming that you're accelerating the whole time, by the way, which you won't be. 160 2,160 seconds equals an acceleration of 7,500 divided by, sorry, we're doing some fun math with you guys, sorry, divided by 2160 is, so assuming that you are, all this seems super inefficient, extremely, assuming that you're accelerating the whole time, puts you through 3.47 meters per second, or about 0.3 Gs. That's assuming you're accelerating and you land with that speed, but that's just not going to happen. Let's say instead you are only accelerating for half the time and then decelerating for the other half. So that would be what? 1,080 seconds. Let's do that instead. So we're here at 3 meters per second squared. Let's say you're doing it for half the time, which is probably not also true. We're just trying to see how many G's, like what the acceleration is, because in order to accelerate to 7,500 meters per second, that's some insane acceleration, guys. Let's do some fun physics questions. Let me see. So what are you trying to figure out? I'm trying to figure out the acceleration of the rocket, essentially, because, so this is just a fun little physics thing, right? This is what we're going to find out. What kills you when you fall, right? Let's say you fall and hit the ground, right? Oh no. Oh no, you're going to fall and hit the ground, right? What kills you when you fall and hit the ground is not the ground itself, but the fact that the ground stopped your movement. It is the deceleration that kills you, not necessarily the ground itself, right? This is why, even if you had somebody catch you right before you hit the ground, you would still get some really bad injuries and probably die. If the ground was going to kill you, the person catching you probably killed you too. Maybe their arms, the fact that they move and helps decelerate you a little bit slower, helps out in that. But if somebody caught you right before you hit the ground, you would still die because you came to a stop just as fast, right? What kills you, rip Gwen, yes indeed, that's what happened to Gwen. It was the sudden stop that killed her. I mean, like, Spider-Man tried his best, right? Spider-Man, Gwen's falling. Gwen Stacy, you know, she's falling. And Spider-Man, you know, thwips his web to save her, catches her right before he, she hits the ground. Doesn't matter, because all her momentum was stopped in a really short thwip. Yep, there we go. Thwip. All her momentum was stopped in a very short amount of time. And that's what killed her. It's the sudden stop that killed Gwen. Gwen, not the fact that she hit the ground, right? So when we're talking, can the human body even take 8,000 meters per second? It can. It all depends on the acceleration up to get there. So if you're accelerating to 8,000 meters per second, thwip, there we go, everybody, thwip. So if you can go in pretty much an infinite speed, as long as you accelerate to there in a, how do I say it? In a relatively long time, basically. If you accelerate from 0 to 8,000 meters per second, instantly in the snap of your fingers, you're dead. You just slammed against the back of that rocket and all your internal organs just exploded. However, if you do that over 36 minutes, you'll be fine. We just saw that's an average acceleration of about 3 meters per second, or about squared, 3 meters per second squared, which is about 0.3 Gs. That would be essentially the same acceleration over 36 minutes as a plane taking off. Let's see. Plane acceleration. Oh, shoot. Actually, no, that's 3 times the acceleration of a plane. A plane accelerates at about 1 meter per second squared, which is about a tenth of a G. The gravitational acceleration is 9.81 meters per second squared. However, I'm just using 10 to round up, so it makes the math easier. So about 10 meters per second squared. So the acceleration you experience in a plane is only 1 meter per second squared. So 3 times that. Let me see. Acceleration. Let me try and find this, actually. Acceleration of a Falcon rocket. Holy shit. Because I think it's the Falcon 9 is Elon's rocket, right? Am I wrong? Somebody correct me in chat if I'm wrong. But 6 Gs? Dude, that could kill you if you're not good enough. Holy shit, this is bad. Is this true? 6 Gs of acceleration? I'm sure they wouldn't do 6 Gs for passenger travel. That's fucking insane. But 6,000 kilonewtons of force going up. Record the speed at every second of the launch for the first time. What are we looking at? How many Gs of acceleration? What's the average acceleration? Oh, it hits a peak of 6 Gs. I see. I think it hits a peak of 6 Gs. Sorry. Either way, that's a lot of acceleration. That's enough acceleration to kill you. 6 Gs is 10 times the acceleration of gravity. How many Gs of acceleration does the astronauts experience? Oh shit. Okay, so this has to be different. But anyway, So I'm no scientist. I don't think that's safe. No, 6Gs is not safe. However, I think that might be a little bit wrong because it says astronauts have a maximum G force of around 3Gs. 3Gs. Now, also remember this. In order to experience 3Gs, you have to be considered, this is equivalent to 3 times the force of gravity humans are normally exposed to when on Earth, but survivable for the passengers. Okay, so that's experience. Let me see. We're going to figure this out. Looks at, astronauts normally experience max G force. Astronauts are trained in high G force, wear G suits, and must be correctly prepared. So you need to be trained. You need to go through years of training for this kind of stuff. You need to go through years of training to go through these G forces. Need to be in pretty good bodily health. You can't be in bad health to do that kind of stuff. It's also, fun fact, guys, even though it's not near 1G of acceleration, for a plane, there are certain health conditions where it's seen as unsafe for even the acceleration of a plane. I know, that's pretty insane, right? But looks like astronauts are experiencing about 3Gs of force, and they need to train for that. They need to be in good health conditions for that. And then even that, then they need special G suits and all that kind of stuff just to do 3Gs of force. And I'm assuming that these rockets are going to accelerate with the same amount of force of 3Gs. That's fucking insane. And especially to get the average speed of 3,600 meters per second, I can as much as 4Gs. Oh my god, that's insane. These are really high accelerations. Remember, what this essentially does to your body, guys, is that Newton's first law of physics, we're going to go into some physics, guys. Newton's first law of physics is an object in motion stays in motion, right? Unless acted upon by an outside force. So, have you guys ever, been on a roller coaster, right? And for whatever, and that initial launch, right, you feel yourself go back into your seat. You're launched into the back of your seat. What that is Newton's first law at work. The roller coaster is accelerating forward, right? But you, because of the Newton's first law, an object in motion stays in motion, or an object at rest stays at rest. You are an object at rest, and because of that, you kind of want to stay at rest, right? And then the roller coaster pushes you forward. Do you guys understand that? Am I explaining that pretty well? The roller coaster is pushing you forward, right? But the reason you are slammed back into your seat is because you, want to stay at rest. Your body wants to stay at rest. It's Newton's first law. You just kind of want to stay at rest. And then you get up to speed, and then you notice, it's not as well, you notice that initial acceleration more than any other acceleration at that point, right? That's what you feel the most. It's because you're thrown back into your seat. In reality, you just want to stay at rest. This works for everything, right? You are turning in a car, right? When you're turning this way, you probably feel your body go this way, right? Right? You guys understand that? When you take a really sharp turn, going this way, you might, swing a little bit this way, swing a little bit to the right. If you're turning to the left, you're gonna, your body's gonna go to the right because, your body wants to stay in motion. It wants to stay in the path that it was originally. And that's gonna change no matter at what point in this curve you are. Because at this point, you might be going this way. You're always gonna be going the direction that you were initially going at, right? So that's how that works. That's how Newton's first law works. And that works for every single aspect of your body, right? So the greater the acceleration, the greater essentially the difference in speed is, the more, I guess you're going to want, this isn't really the way to think of it. This isn't actually how it works, but the best way to think of it is the more you're going to be slammed back into your seat, right? If you barely accelerate, you're not going to feel it, but if you accelerate a lot, you're definitely going to feel it. And, every single part of your body is experiencing Newton's first law. Every single part. Your blood is experiencing Newton's first law, meaning that when you accelerate at 3 Gs, not only are you thrown back into your seat and continuously thrown back into your seat, but you want to know what else? Depending on the acceleration, like we're just going to do your average human, right? We're going to make him a square so it's a little bit easier to understand. So your brain, right, could be thrown to the back of your skull, essentially. Depending on how much the acceleration is, your brain can absolutely just smash to the back of your skull. Your lungs, same thing. Not only that, but your blood too. What can happen under high accelerations is you lose consciousness because all your blood might go to the back of your head, to the back of your body, or like when you're spinning or something, it might all, if you're spinning upside down, right, it might all go to your feet, just because of the laws of inertia. And well, that can kill you. Acceleration, even without hitting anything, can absolutely kill you thanks to Newton's first law, baby. An object in motion stays in motion, an object at rest stays at rest. Well, your brain wants to stay at rest, your lungs want to stay at rest, you want to stay at rest, meaning that depending on the acceleration, you can die. But most of the time under 3 Gs, your organs aren't going to explode, but the fact that your blood goes to the back of your body or basically just can't get to your brain because of the acceleration, you can pass out and die. You just lose consciousness. You just don't get enough brain to your oxygen. Enough oxygen to your brain. Sorry. I'm not getting enough brain to my oxygen. But that's why these people need to go through a bunch of training. They need special suits, is because of these high accelerations. Why would Newton make a law like that can kill you? I know. We need to really wonder the systemic issues due to physics. Like, this doesn't make sense. We should really change that. We should bring Newton. These laws should be democratically elected on, in my opinion. A good parliamentary Newtonian system. I think that would be much more preferable to this. But anywho, cool, cancel Newton. Oh yeah, Newton's absolutely canceled. Get him out of here. Nobody wants to see Newton. Newton was boring. He was a nerd. Hey everyone, Ali, we're talking physics, baby. We're using physics to explain, and you're not gonna like this, buddy. Sorry, I'm pouring myself some Riesling. We're using physics to explain why Elon Musk's rocket, propulsion to get people from point A to point B, the one that will cut travel time by like hours and hours. We're using physics to explain why that's really dumb. So like I was saying, astronauts really need to be in pretty peak physical condition for this kind of stuff, to go through these type of Gs, meaning that this rocket system can only be used by sorry, this has nothing to do with the rocket system. Where's that rocket system video? Hold on. Sorry guys, I want to find that rocket system. Okay, coolio. You need to be in peak physical condition to go onto this rocket. You need to be able to experience those Gs for a long period of time, like astronauts can. Basically, you need to be in the same physical condition as an astronaut to use this transit system, meaning that a lot of the world's population, a lot of Americans, are not going to be using it. So, that's great. It's not enough Gs to probably kill most people. However, it's definitely enough to make it a very uncomfortable ride and maybe even make some people pass out. But it is enough Gs to kill some people. 3 Gs is a lot of Gs, guys. Too many Gs for me to be comfortable with. I wonder, can we find some cool videos? 3 Gs of acceleration. 3 Gs of acceleration. 3 Gs. Oh my goodness. So yeah, let's look at 3 Gs of acceleration. How much acceleration can the human body take? Oh my god, at 9 Gs, that's not 3 Gs, but that's probably horrid. Okay. So which one should we watch? Which one are we going to watch, guys? This one, how much acceleration can the human body take? Or G-force jerk and passing out in a centrifuge by Tom Scott.
This is the Royal Air
watch
Force
this one.
training centrifuge at Farnborough, and the team here are going to push me as far as they are allowed to push a civilian.
The centrifuge has been here since 1955.
A civilian?
The device was originally installed for research purposes, although these days it's used for training as much as it is for research. And what it does is recreate the forces that you feel in an aircraft. For our routine pilot training, the first time pilots go on the centrifuge, we expect them to get up to 5G without a G suit and then up to 7G with an anti-G suit.
Now, I'm not taking a significant risk here. I'm healthy, I've pulled a few Gs before, and the human body can take this. And the reason we know that is because in the 1950s, the US Air Force used rocket sleds to push volunteers to incredible speeds. But that rocket-powered acceleration wasn't the dangerous or even the really high G part of the test. See, high G acceleration takes a lot of incredibly expensive rockets or a big old centrifuge like this. But high G deceleration, all you need for that is a wall. Or for something less destructive, like the rocket sleds, you use scoops dropped down into a water trough. US Air Flight Surgeon John Stapp, aboard the rocket sled Sonic Wind #1, holds the record for the highest sustained G-force anyone has ever voluntarily endured, 25 G for
Holy shit.
1.1 seconds, with a brief peak over...
This is base. This is absolutely base. We love physics here on Evans News. Copyright? What are you talking about? Dude, this is so annoying. Okay, guys, I'm going to let you look at this. You guys got chat right here. You guys are seeing what I'm looking at. So we got this. We got that. We're going to say, heads off, we've detected copyrighted audio in your stream. The stream may be blocked. Are you serious? I can't even watch this Tom Scott video? This is annoying. Am I not allowed to just watch any YouTube video anymore? Is that what we're on? Am I going to get copyright strike for every single thing? Should we continue to watch it and see if my stream gets blocked? Should we do that? I don't know. What should we do? What do you guys think? Should we take the risk? Should we do what? What should we do, guys? Tell me what we should do. But 25 G's is fucking insane. That is so many G's. We were already talking about 3 G's and how that's a lot for most people. But 25 G's, I have to know what this guy goes through. Like, I know it might risk Twitch. Would Twitch be better for this? But or is YouTube just bad for it?
46 G. And he was badly injured, but he survived.
Look at his face, guys. Dude, look at how blue his face is after 25 G's. Oh my god, that's insane. But this is copyrighted, so should we do the one through Seeker? Would that help? What happens when you survive an overload in 46 G? I don't know if I want to watch that. That looks really gross. 25 G's is insane. But okay, there we go. We got some more we are not going to risk being copyright striked, guys. Not in the mood for that to happen. Instead, we're going to watch this other video. Maybe this
Hey
one's
guys,
better.
Matt here with Science or Fiction. Is there a speed that would harm humans? There are a bunch of human speed records that are going to be broken in the coming decades as we develop the technology to travel thousands of miles and minutes by land.
Yep, this is the one that we're talking about.
Send commercial flights into low Earth orbit.
Watch it, but with subtitles. Actually, you might be a genius there, buddy. You might be a genius there. Go crazy. We're gonna make it. Turn off the audio. Do that fun stuff. All right. Let's try it like this. How far are you about to push a civilian? Jerks rate change acceleration, and because it takes time to spin up and slow down. So here we have 2 G's. All right, let's see here. Oh shoot, nope, this isn't working, guys. I'm still getting the copyright strike thing. Still getting it. Okay, never mind. So we can't watch that. Is there literally anything I can watch while not getting absolute fucked by YouTube? Fuck, this sucks. This sucks. Is there nothing I can watch without getting fucked by YouTube? This is annoying because I want to see that. Like, even beyond stream, I want to see what's going on there. YouTube sucks. YouTube does suck indeed. I am not very happy with YouTube right now and why it's not letting me do this. Aw. Sorry, somebody just sent me a picture of their cat and it was really cute. But that sucks because I really wanted to watch that. I really wanted to see what was going on with those G's and everything. But I guess that's for another stream. But let's watch this. Let's get the rest of this going on. Fuck, that's loud. You're literally strapping people to an ICB. Seriously? Is there nothing I can... I'm also getting for this. This cannot be true. Are we not allowed to watch anything on YouTube? I wasn't getting this for the other guy's video. I never get this for a Ben Shapiro video. We're gonna keep doing this. We're just gonna fucking Sigma chat this. We're gonna take the risk. Hong Kong to Toronto. Awesome. Everywhere. Look at all these kind of stuff. Most long distance trip, less than 30 minutes. Anywhere on Earth in an hour. Alrighty, so this should also be us scared about nuclear war because that means you can hit anywhere in less than an hour, which is pretty spooky. But more than that, this is not an efficient mode of travel. It's just not. It sucks. Like we were talking about G's, which I guess YouTube won't let us learn about G's, which sucks because science is dope. Learn about G's is dope. It's just good stuff. But more than that, beyond just that is you need a rocket platform miles and miles away from the shore, on both sides. You're using an insane amount of fuel per passenger in order to do this. Like, rockets are far less fuel efficient, obviously, than planes, but they're also, like, per passenger, it's really dumb to do that because you're going to need to burn more fuel to get up into the atmosphere, and the more weight you have, the more fuel you're going to need to burn. But the more fuel you have, the more fuel you need to burn for the weight of that extra fuel. More than that is you have to probably add an extra hour of travel time by boat. Then you have to unload the boat on both sides, meaning you have to have some time to load the boat, unload the boat on both sides, get everyone through security. Meaning that, this just isn't insanely efficient travel. Sure, it's going to be still less than, most jets by multiple hours. I can't deny that. It's still not insanely, how do I say? A fully reusable rocket could send 100 people into space at a time. Only 100 people per rocket can get across the world. That's extremely inefficient. Most long-haul planes, let me see. What is the Boeing 747 passenger capacity? 7 passenger capacity. 467 passengers. This, the Boeing 747, nautical miles. Wait, no, this isn't a 747. Oh, 747-8, sorry. Has a capacity of 467 passengers, over 4 times Elon Musk's rocket. More than that, the per passenger fuel economy is way better. It's more economical. You can have an airport close to a city. More than that, we have hypersonic travel that can get you from point A to point B very fast. Either way, This rocket idea is not great. And let's see, when was that video even published? Like, do we have a published date on that? Let me look at it. Elon Musk rocket transportation. 2017. We've heard zero things ever since. Zero things. I think SpaceX has done much more things for the space industry, you know, in recent years. But this is just not great. This is just not the best, you know, best idea. Could take 30 minutes, says Elon Musk. But this is with, you know, this is extremely inefficient. I don't know what other way to put it. It's just inefficiency across the board. On top of that, like I was saying, you're not going to be able to, you know, transport as many passengers as efficiently. And let me tell you something, rocket travel is going to be way, 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 way more expensive than plane travel. Just so expensive. So not only will you have a low capacity hindered also by the physical health of those passengers, because you need to be in really good condition to handle the G-force for a long period of time. On top of that, because remember, even if we're saying that you're only accelerating for half of the, you know, half of the ride and then accelerating again as you go down, that is still 30 minutes of constant acceleration. You either have an insane amount of acceleration at once or lower acceleration for half the time. You guys know what I'm talking about? So that's not great. But anywho, more than that, you need physical, able-bodied people to go on there. And you will only have the most affluent members of society being able to take it. Being able to take these rockets. Only the most affluent members of society. Which, really sucks. Makes it not a really feasible transport system in the long run. Anywho, we're gonna keep going.
Who then immediately broke away from the air cushion tech because it was a bad idea. And believe it or not, this exact same thing has already happened in the second half of the 20th century. Have you heard about the French Iro Train? It was this brand new, ultra-fast air cushion-based train, because back then you were allowed to call these things trains, which promised to revolutionize transportation. Grandiose plans were made, working prototypes were built, and then fast forward a few years and no one's talking about it. And why was that? Well, because maglev technology was gaining traction, and it promised to be much more efficient than the air cushion tech. Now, this was in the 1970s. We don't see too many maglevs around, do we? Well, first off, it's...
Yeah, because these modes of transit are just really inefficient. Air cushion technology takes a lot of energy, a lot of things going on. It goes really fast, I will say that, but at the cost of a lot of energy. It's just not great as a mass transit system. It's like you're using a lot of energy to go relatively fast, and you can only make a smaller capsule, meaning your passenger capacity is pretty low. It's just not the best. Same thing for maglev, it seems like. The infrastructure needed for maglev, like, you know, monorails and everything, just is so expensive. You need dedicated stations for the monorail. You can't have freight on the monorail. It's just so expensive. The infrastructure is so expensive. And then the infrastructure isn't that efficient. You can't go super fast on a monorail. You can't take the turn super fast. Switches just aren't super efficient. Monorails just aren't great either. I mean, they look cool. But I mean, how many monorails have you guys been on? They're super slow. They're not the best thing in the world. You guys understand.
It's expensive as shit, and profitability is questionable at best. You know the Shanghai Airport maglev, perhaps the most famous project? That thing just bleeds money, namely around $100 million each year.
Yeah, even though I will say though, public transportation systems bleeding money to me isn't the biggest thing in the world. Oh, sorry. But like inefficiently bleeding money to the point of absurdity is of course an issue. But I don't think public transportation things should be profitable. Even if they lose a little bit of money, the societal good that they do, I think, economically outweighs that. As in, like, public transportation brings more economic opportunities, makes sure more people aren't driving for hours on the road. More people have more income to kind of, spend and everything. So economically, it makes up for the financial costs of public transportation. But yeah, $100 million a year is insane for one line.
Here. Now that's a lot. And the one thing that's even more expensive is building the damn thing. In today's dollars, the Shanghai maglev cost $56 million per kilometer. In contrast, high-speed rail costs
$56 million per kilometer. Our shitbox high-speed rail is, 39 mil. It's right there. Well, in California, it's currently running. Let me see.
between 17 and $21 million per.
Yeah, okay. So what did he say? Sorry.
The damn thing. In today's dollars, the Shanghai maglev cost $56 million per kilometer.
$56 million per kilometer. That is insane.
In contrast, high-speed.
Yeah, that's insane. $56 million per kilometer. But it looks like our high-speed rail system here in the United States is not doing that great. So yeah, not doing fantastic there. 56 million per kilometer is an insane amount. But yeah, anywho, that should show how expensive these things are. As for the high-speed rail in China, it costs about 17 to 21 million dollars per kilometer. And in France, it's more like 25 to 39 per kilometer. And in California, which is also pretty expensive, 56 million per kilometer. These are very expensive projects. But the thing is, the high-speed rail in Europe actually brought some profitability, is a really good system, but the high-speed rail here in California has gone nothing, and this insane cost is due to a ton of construction issues.
High-speed rail costs between 17 and $21 million per kilometer. This is in China, of course, where the maglev is. Meaning that if you build a maglev, your costs can be up to 4 times as much as conventional high-speed rail.
And that's high-speed rail too, by the way.
Comes Elon Musk and says, hey, let's just put a vacuum chamber over it and it'll somehow be cheaper. For example.
Yeah, the stuff that Elon Musk is proposing will probably be far more expensive per kilometer to construct and be just as inefficient, not have the same passenger capacity. It just is not an efficient use for mass transit at the end of the day. Because remember, trains can have like hundreds upon hundreds of people per train. This might have less than 100 people per train.
In India, the proposed Chennai-Bengaluru Hyperloop line was estimated at $20 million per kilometer, including land purchases. $8 million cheaper than the conventional high-speed rail, which is also being built there. Now, Virgin Hyperloop 1 in 2016 came out with a more sober estimate, which is $134 to $193 million.
Wait, where is he getting leaked financial documents? Like Hyperloop costs between 9 and 10 billion, or between 84 and 121 billion per kilometer, million per kilometer. That is a pretty giant construction cost difference. $121 million per mile is insane. $84 million per mile on the low end is insane for the Hyperloop costs. Per mile, you are spending $84 million to build it. And for something that doesn't have the same capacity, for something that would need, is way more energy inefficient, all to, get you from point A to point B, I guess, a little bit faster. Listen, I'm a big fan of getting from point A to point B faster. I like big old muscle cars. I like the Dodge Demon. I like the supercharged V8 getting you from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. That's fucking dope. But the problem is this isn't dope because it doesn't go wee, which is the fundamental difference between the two. Also, one person owning a Dodge Demon is not the same as spending $84 million per kilometer and using way more energy to transport less people. I bet a Dodge Demon is more energy efficient than that. I don't have any data to back that up, so I might be completely wrong, but I just have a hunch.
Dollars per kilometer. Now, that being said, conventional high-speed rail can be incredibly expensive as well. The California high-speed rail costs $164 million per kilometer. But here's the thing. The project's exorbitant price does not come from the fact that it's a train. Trains aren't these future age tech. They have been built before and they have been built for much cheaper. The causes for that exorbitant price are external, namely that you're trying to build a long, continuous thing through California, through other people's lands, and through very densely built out areas. And
Yeah, that's the main issue. Like, building here, there's a reason that here in California, our high-speed rail is only focusing on Central California, because that's where land's cheapest. At the end of the day, like, it's cheap out there. But the thing is, land throughout California is just really expensive. You have to buy the land, go through all the permits, you have to negotiate for the people already living on the land in order to build this high-speed rail system. So this is where land's the cheapest, it's easiest to do, and it's already having exuberant costs. Imagine building through San Francisco, San Jose, or Los Angeles. Property is insane here. The average price of homes in San Jose alone is over $1 million. And that's not even the most expensive city in California. I do think it's still more expensive than Los Angeles, but San Francisco is insanely expensive. It is I think it's the second most expensive city in the country. Trying to build high-speed rail through this area is going to be insane. Insanely expensive. That's just how it is. Also construction delays. There's been a lot of stuff making this extremely expensive. So, I guess our high-speed rail project and the Hyperloop are on par, but I think in the long run, it would be more profitable to hire the high-speed rail than the Hyperloop here in California, just because of passenger capacity. Tickets would probably be cheaper. You guys understand what I'm saying.
and also through some geologically active terrain. And this is something that high-speed rail and the
Yeah, everything needs to be up to earthquake code, which increases the price of all this by a lot.
Hyperloop have very much in common. But of course, with the Hyperloop comes the additional challenge of putting a vacuum tube over the rails. But
Yeah,
hey,
you would need so much energy to keep it as a vacuum chamber for years and years.
the private sector's best minds are working on this issue for almost a decade now. So what have they accomplished in that time? So there are two companies doing actual visible work on this, Virgin Hyperloop and Hyperloop TT, as in
So Elon Musk just basically said, you guys can work on this if you want.
transportation technologies. So first off, Virgin Hyperloop. They now have a live test of a pod for 2 people. And oh my god, who put these panels together? There isn't a straight line there. There's like gigantic gaps all over. It's asymmetric.
I will say that also Tesla does have some panel issues. I know this isn't Tesla, but what's up with EV companies? Like all these futuristic companies and having shitty panels. Like let's look at the Tesla Model 3. Has some major panel gap issues. Let's see if we can look at these. These panels are not great. I wish I can. Let's look. Panel gap. Sorry. That's a Model 3 panel. Oh, first thing that comes up. Look at this, guys. Look at these panel gaps and everything. Right here, you got right here. You got a panel gap right there. Look at these panel gaps. They don't fit very well together. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. What's wrong with this? My 2007 Civic has better panels than these. Yeah, no, fuck these cars. Even though the acceleration of the Model S Plaid is pretty fucking dope, by the way. 0 to 60 in less than 2 seconds is pretty god tier, not gonna lie. I can't deny that. That's pretty cool.
And of course these panels are not, structural elements, they're just decoration. But just optics wise, this is kind of terrible. Since building a vacuum
Also a pod for 2 people. Seriously, you're going to use all that energy for one pod to, do 2 people?
chamber involves putting together pieces very, 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 very precisely. Anyway, it doesn't exactly scream professionalism or, high-tech precision. And the other thing is, I highly suspect that this is just a private jet fuselage cut up and put into a futuristic tube. So I think that's the reason why the windows are at their shoulders for some reason, because this is indeed an airplane fuselage and their seats are somewhat raised above where the airplane seats would normally be. But aside from concerns over...
I don't really care about all this. It's a beta test. Who gives a shit? This isn't like a very valid criticism if I'm being completely honest. My valid criticism is that they're building all this to transport 2 people. That's really fucking stupid. But I don't really give a shit. This is their test. It's like, who cares if it's an airplane fuselage? I'm assuming that it would be different. Virgin owns a lot of planes. I don't really give a crap. They're trying to save money. Who gives a shit?
Quality and the method of construction. Is this impressive? Should we be impressed? Well, not after more than half a decade, 6 years. Virgin Hyperloop started in 2014 and this test took place in November 2020. And so this test would have been impressive in like early 2016. You know, if they spent 2014 founding the company and then 2015 working out the prototypes, and then in 2016 we see a human test. Like at that point I would have been like halfway impressed. But to do this test at the end of 2020? I mean, if they came
It's just trying to highlight the inefficiency of everything.
out with some kind of new technology of like, hey, here's our new vacuum tunnel, 10 times cheaper to build and, not prone to failure. But instead they were like, hey, check out our giant Tic Tac in a small vacuum tube with 2 people in it this time. Journalists
It's
have called
extremely
it a breakthrough,
inefficient.
but this is really just like a half-assed proof of concept, really. And so let's look at the other company, Hyperloop TT, and see what they've been up to. What is this, a CGI
That's great. Explore our progress.
image and the world's first full-scale Hyperloop isolation valve? Wow. It only took them 8 years. So why is progress on the Hyperloop so painfully slow, so glacial? Well, that's because the Hyperloop is just not a good concept, because there's a huge contradiction right in the middle of it. Namely that the Hyperloop would only make sense on long distances, but the one thing that would be incredibly difficult to build is long vacuum tubes. Whereas with conventional rail,
This is very true. It wouldn't make sense to like only do it like across a city. There just wouldn't be any demand for it. It's the same thing with high-speed rail when it comes to the United States, if I'm being completely honest. I would love to see high-speed rail. But the reason that high-speed rail isn't the best in the United States is just because our cities are so far apart. Something like here in California is because you have you have 2 major cities, Los Angeles and San Francisco, right? That a lot of people travel between within a short plane flight, but you also have to go through check-in and all this kind of stuff, increasing the time it actually takes. Where high-speed rail would be a pretty good thing to do, right? You don't need to go through check-in for rail. It makes sense for this route. But for other places in the United States, it just doesn't. Northeast Corridor, it makes sense. But, like, there's not a lot of people going between Seattle and Chicago, one of the main Amtrak lines. It's mostly there as, like, a tourist line. Beyond that, high-speed rail just doesn't make a lot of sense here in the United States from a practical standpoint. What would be more practical, with the reason that trains are really good here in the United States and are better for public transportation, is because trains are okay on short haul routes too, as in like subways, public transportation within cities. It works really well because trains, they go slow enough that they're safe within a city, that they make sense. They can make a bunch of stops within a city. They don't need to go through the insane accelerations of a Hyperloop, you know what I mean? You can just go from station to station to station on a train very easily. And that works for public transportation because you go from one point of the city to another, all within a pretty short amount of time, but also without needing to accelerate very fast. You can do that at maybe like 30 miles an hour and you're fine. You're still getting there very efficiently because you don't need to go through traffic. The lines are set very efficiently. Versus high-speed rail within a city just wouldn't make sense. What's the point of accelerating up to speed if you're going to be stopping 2 minutes later, you know? And it's the same thing with a Hyperloop, right? You would be accelerating and then stopping, and it just wouldn't make sense. When it comes to Europe, it makes sense because you have a lot of cities within a relatively short distance, right? You have different cities that you can go around in. So high-speed rail makes a lot of sense for Europe. Within the United States, our cities are just too spread apart, unfortunately. That a transcontinental high-speed rail system just isn't feasible within within our lifetimes. Maybe it would be. I can see some practicality for a transcontinental high-speed rail just to get from city to city, essentially. But it wouldn't be from like coast to coast. It might be from getting from New York to Chicago by high-speed rail, or like from Chicago to St. Louis, maybe. I don't know. But other than that, going from like New York to Los Angeles on high-speed rail just doesn't make any sense. That's dumb. Take a plane at that point. It's more efficient. It's like from time wise, cost wise, energy per passenger, because so little passengers would take a plane. Same thing applies to Hyperloops. Hyperloops just aren't efficient when it comes to short haul routes. You would need it for long haul routes, and you need a lot of energy to vacuumize hundreds of miles of Hyperloop, because it would all need to be a vacuum, right, in order to make it go really fast. Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. You have a giant hundreds of miles of Hyperloop track or tube or whatever, and it's like so much fucking energy is being used for, and especially if this fucking 2-passenger tube is anything to be seen into the future, that's an insane amount of energy per person. And in an era where we're worried about the climate, we need to worry about climate change, and especially since green energy is so much more economical, it just doesn't make any sense. This futurism shit doesn't make a lot of sense. High-speed rail is just a better option from getting to these cities that are relatively close together in a short amount of time, because a Hyperloop from New York to Los Angeles wouldn't make any sense either. It would be a lot of energy per person, but it's just going to be still slower than a plane.
Rail or maglev even, distance is not really an issue, only in terms of costs maybe. So it doesn't really matter how far two cities are from each other. Building a train generally makes sense because trains are very highly adaptable to varying distances. You know, there's a reason.
This is true, but like practically it's not gonna, come on. Like, I understand what he's trying to say, but like, let's have our criticisms within the realm of reality to the Hyperloop. Like, the idea that trains should just span across continents and everything, and that's the best thing in the world, is dumb. Like, planes are better at doing that. Like, let's use trains for what they're practical for, and planes for what they're practical for, and cars for what they're practical for. Let's not have these criticisms of the Hyperloop be just not really in reality.
Then why Austrian rail-jets have a maximum speed of 230 kilometers per hour, whereas the French TGV goes by 320 kilometers per hour. Different distances, different speeds. But even if you have 2 points between which the Hyperloop's speed is viable, you will still need to sell the idea to the people who will be ultimately paying for it, namely the taxpayers. And so if you're a decision maker and propose a Hyperloop connecting two cities, you will have a rather difficult time selling it to people. You know, everyone likes shiny CGI, and everyone seems to be uncritically accepting everything Elon Musk says. However, when it comes to their money, people tend to be much more defensive and conservative. And so during public discussions of the Hyperloop, inconvenient questions might surface, such as, instead of building this nice, shiny, high-end system which is not compatible with everything else...
Yeah, like, look at this tube. It's not going to have a really practical amount of passengers. It's just going to have... Sorry, I'm starting to feel the effects of this Riesling. But I'm just going to finish it off. I'm going to get fucked up tonight, baby. Like, you're looking at that, and that's just not a lot of passengers in that fuselage. This is just not practical. Like, why would I take this versus a train? Like, it would be so much more expensive because, like, even though high-speed rails is really expensive, you have hundreds of people per trains, meaning you can distribute the cost of that over thousands of people over a year, right? Hyperloop's not the same. The cost per passenger is going to have to be increased just by the operating cost of this thing. It just is dumb. It just doesn't make any sense.
Else we have, why not just improve existing
Party,
infrastructure?
yes indeed. Let's
You know,
go,
Aunt
Simeon.
Julie has trouble climbing up the tram every day because it's a banged up high floor thing from the 1950s, and then it chugs along into the city center at 20 kilometers per hour because the tracks are busted. You know, for her and tens of thousands of other passengers, a shiny new train somewhere far away will not be much consolation. And so if you have $1 billion in your budget, let's say, and maglev would cost $1 billion, conventional rail $500 million, and Hyperloop $250 million, in a private company's opinion, which one would you build? So just on the face of it, you could say, oh yeah, of course we're gonna build the Hyperloop. We're gonna save a bunch of money and have this new high-tech solution. But then some of your voters or political opponents might do some thinking for longer than 5 seconds. And so they might ask, hey, how come just maglev is 4 times as expensive as maglev in a vacuum tube? You know, shouldn't it be the other way around?
This is very true. Private companies always underestimate the cost of it when, you know, giving it to the government. Because once the government signs a contract, what other point is there? Well, it's going to cost us more money, so you got to give us more money. You know what I mean? And by the way, the Hyperloop would need government assistance. Only states have the kind of resources and the money to help companies go through this kind of stuff. Because the thing is, a lot of a company's net worth is kind of, in stocks and everything. So they don't actually have the necessary liquid capital to build these insane infrastructure. If you look at something like Transcontinental Railroad from the 1860s, they needed the government to help them out with that kind of stuff. They needed the government to give them land, to give them money for tracks and money for tools and money for labor especially. And even at that, they used extremely cheap labor. I mean, you look at the history of the Transcontinental Railroad, the exploitation of labor, and Chinese labor especially, is pretty fucked. And also, on that, I'm going to say that when we built the Transcontinental Railroad, after we got it finished, you know what we do a couple years later? Chinese Exclusion Act. No more Chinese people in the country, even though we exploited Chinese labor in order to build the Transcontinental Railroad. Without Chinese labor, that shit wouldn't be fucking possible. And we said, you're not allowed in our country anymore. That is absolutely fucked that we did that. But, yeah, beyond that, companies always undersell their costs to the government. That way, they're going to have to get more money in the long run. That way their proposal's chosen. You know how it works. But the idea that maglev's only $1 billion and the Hyperloop's $250 million is ludicrous.
Does this company have
Because, think of the operating costs and everything.
any price references from projects that actually happened? No? Okay. So is it a possibility that a company proposes a price at the beginning of a project and that price starts climbing and climbing and climbing, reaching 3 to 5 times the original estimate at the end? Especially if the system only exists on paper so far and cannot produce any real-life estimates. So you do see why a decision maker would have a really hard time selling this to voters. And actually this is the reason why you only see Hyperloop projects in developing and or autocratic countries.
This is true. Autocrats can do whatever the fuck they want.
With young or non-existent democracies, because there the people have little to no control over how public money is spent. So if you ever wondered why it's always, dictatorships that seem to be jumping on these shiny new bullshit projects, well, that's why. And so the engineering problems, together with the financial problems and political problems, make the Hyperloop a complete non-starter. And so I don't think we should be taking the Hyperloop any more seriously than the French Iro Train. 1 or 2 Hyperloops might get built somewhere actually, most likely in autocratic regimes, but then it's going to be like the Shanghai maglev, big fanfare, huge expectations.
It's like Shanghai maglev's extremely inefficient. You're losing hundreds of millions of dollars per year.
But then people slowly realize that it's not that good actually. Shanghai would have been better off with like an airport S-Bahn or something, which could stop on the way and actually serve the local community, instead of, just whizzing past neighborhoods. And if they really wanted to, for that kind of price, they could have just built 4 tracks and have the middle tracks act as the express service and the outer tracks as the stopping everywhere kind of service. But no, the Chinese government, an autocratic regime by the way, decided that the people of Shanghai need a maglev, and so it was built. And it's pretty underwhelming, it makes a ton of losses, and it doesn't serve the community. Unless you happen to be a commuter between the city center and the airport. And so
yeah, literally. So there's a really famous monorail. I know this isn't maglev, but monorail's just as efficient. Monorail's dumb as well. I don't know, dude, this bottle. Fuck you. Monorail's also really expensive, and so it was built in Seattle for the World's Fair, I think in the 60s. Can't remember what year it was exactly. But anyway, you got a monorail going from downtown Seattle over to where the World's Fair was, where the Space Needle is now. And it's like, that's cool, but it was only built to bring people from downtown over to where the World's Fair was. Beyond that, the monorail is nothing but a big tourist thing. Same thing with this little maglev thing that China has. But yeah, sometimes new futuristic technologies aren't the best, or they're just not, good for using in all these situations. Guys, I will be right back. I really need to pee. Give me 1 second. I've literally been holding it in for a second. But anyway, I gotta go get pee pilled. So I'll be right back. No, Serena, it is not time to take over because I have returned from the bathroom. Wonderful pee, I gotta say. Fantastic pee, the best. I noticed the wine starting to hit me a little bit. Not too much, still I'd say overall very sober. You guys understand. Not okay to drive though. But that's okay because I'm here on stream with you guys. The only people that I really want to talk with. But yeah, so when we're talking about the feasibility of public transit systems, like public transit is only more environmentally effective at the end of the day if people are using it, right? Like trains use a lot more energy than cars, and the only reason they're more efficient than cars is because, well, you're transporting a lot of people. It's the same way that your car gets more fuel efficient when you put more people in, because you're using less energy per person, essentially. When you have a car and it's just you, you know, you're driving around, all that kind of fun stuff. Drunk stream, maybe, perhaps. It might be a drunk stream. Give me a second. But when you're driving about, you might be using that 1 gallon of fuel to transport one person, versus when your car is completely full, you know, you're using 1 gallon of people to maybe transport 5 people per se. More fuel efficient at that point. Same way with trains. They're only more energy efficient when a lot of people are using them. So if we build these transit systems, which yes, electric mass transit is more efficient than electric cars. You know how it is. You're using less energy per person. If we build mass transit systems that are fucking stupid and nobody uses them, they're not going to be more environmentally efficient because we're still using all that energy for less people. A train's going to use all the energy it uses no matter how many people are on it. Of course, like depending on mass, it will change it. But at the end of the day, that's still, you know, if a train's completely full and it might be using that amount of fuel per passenger, the amount of fuel per passenger is going to go way down. And when it's completely empty, the amount of fuel per passenger goes way up. You guys understand this is how it works. So if we build mass transit system just to make it look shiny and new but are completely stupid, it doesn't help the environment at all, and it definitely doesn't help economically. This is what Elon Musk always does. He does these shiny little, shiny new transit systems and everything. That's what he likes to put out. And then he will, they're not just completely inefficient. And with the Hyperloop thing, he just gave it to other people to see how it works. And, well, you know, it's just dumb. Just dumb. That's how it works. But that was a really fun video. I really like Adam Something. He has a lot of cool videos on public transit and city planning and everything. Mostly Elon Musk hating videos. So if you don't like Elon Musk hating, you're not really going to like him. But, oh yeah, this fucking shit. Jesus Christ. We're going to watch this together, guys. You guys know The Boring Company? It was originally supposed to be like pods that will take you from point A to point B. Then it became Teslas taking you from point A to point B on like these guiding tracks essentially, and then it became a literal paved road underground essentially. At the end of the day, just another lane. So we're gonna watch this. Alright, I know this tweet. He ended up actually starting digging. He just dug a toll. I love this also, by the way, that Elon Musk's solution to traffic isn't to fundamentally change traffic by, hey, making people change you know, how they get around, perhaps making them go on public transportation per se. It is instead to add more lanes underground. That would be better. Here's the original concepts, guys. Like, look, you have all these pods taking you from point A to point B real quick. Like, also, imagine your station just being a fucking elevator for one car to get down. And each of these cars then goes onto them. Like, look at this. It just looks like a road system. Yeah, it's with autonomous vehicles, which is great, which means traffic won't be fixed, but it still means you need a vehicle. Like, imagine how fucking expensive this system would be. How fucking stupid do you need to be to actually think this would be a, like, good system? A, you need to somehow build the infrastructure for all these fucking lanes. Somehow. I know what people were reacting like. They're like, whoa, whoa, look at this cool futuristic design. Let's get tubes under the grounds. Well, all the plebs drive up front, up on top. Yeah, that's the way to fucking do it. But look, you'd have to build all the fucking infrastructure for all these lanes. Imagine how fucking expensive it would be. Do you know how expensive it is just to build a single yeah, no, this is dumb. This is super fucking dumb. Do you know how expensive it is to build just one tunnel? Just one tunnel for a subway. Beyond just all these. So fucking expensive. And the deeper you go, the more expensive it is. Look at all these lanes down here. I know this is just a concept design and it wouldn't actually work like that. But like, you have all these things. It just looks like a fucking highway. You got all these lanes going to and fro and all that fun stuff. And it's just fucking stupid. Look at this. But more than that, building, so the Bart Extension, downtown San Jose. So I just know this because I live in the Bay Area, but City Council received an update on Tuesday. So this is going to be a Bart Extension, so the Bay Area Rapid Transit. I don't know if you guys know what that is. Basically, I'll show you guys a nice little map. Bart map. It's basically like a subway system around the Bay Area. Right? Pretty good stuff. The Bart is really nice, actually. I love the Bart. It's fast, it's efficient, it's timely, it's reliable. I like the Bart. But yeah, you go from Millbrae to Bay Aresa, North San Jose. Yeah, this is the system, right? It goes all around the bay. Nice little subway system, public transit system. Good stuff. Anyway, they're going to expand the BART from its current southernmost point, Bay Aresa / North San Jose, down to downtown San Jose. And just to tunnel for this little Bay Aresa, North San Jose thing, is going to cost. Is going to cost $10 billion fucking dollars. I think for like an extension of maybe like 10 miles or so. It's not that fucking long. I think it might be 10 miles at the very most. It's probably less because it's going from within San Jose. So yeah, you have that. $10 billion for a relatively small tunnel. And you're going to tell me that all of this is somehow going to be cheap and economically efficient? That you're going to build all these underground lanes for like an efficient cost? On top of that, to have individual fucking maglev type of whatever it is, 6 miles, lol. Is it only 6 miles to go from that area from Bay Aresa to downtown San Jose? 6 miles. I know they're also going to Santa Clara, so I don't know how much that changes it. But yeah, 6 miles, $10 billion. Tunneling is insanely expensive. Insanely expensive. And you're going to tell me all these lanes and everything are just going to somehow make it better, like make everybody like make it like everyone's gonna be like, whoa, now I can go super fast on my Tesla all around these lanes and everything. It's gonna be so cool. It's gonna be so cool. Oh, so cool. No, it's dumb. It's literally stupid. On top of that, on top of the construction cost, the amount of energy needed to transport all these individual pods with their individual batteries, their individual fucking components, all going around. It's just a giant fucking highway underground. It's stupid. What if one of these goes wrong? You got a traffic jam. Also, this is just the original concept. The original concept was dumb, but watch how he changes it. So hold on. What do you have? This was their original design. So here you have it with guide tracks and everything, right? To guide your Tesla, your individual Tesla. By the way, right? Your Tesla. Guys, when we're talking about the efficiency of electric vehicles and everything, one of the main valid criticisms to electric vehicles is the environmental impact of manufacturing an electric vehicle. So while operating an electric vehicle, obviously the electric vehicle doesn't emit anything. And even if we as the United States have a completely renewable electric source, it's still really environmentally inefficient to produce these electric vehicles. And now you're just going to have your individual Teslas going into this tunnel and then going around. Like, environmentally, this doesn't make any fucking sense. And on top of that, the rubber wasted, you're going to have a bunch of rubber waste inside these tunnels that you're going to need to clean up eventually. It's just, yeah, I don't understand. Fuck, I've drank a lot of wine. Oh yeah, this was the final design. Look at this. They realized this was too fucking expensive and stupid. Also, this is only one, by the way. One lane that they had to make. One lane. Their original concept was a bunch of these lanes. This is the new one. Also only one lane, by the way. And now it's paved. It's essentially just another... Literally, at this point, it's just another lane underground. That has to be done. The only way this is feasible is through automated Teslas. Automated Teslas that can, make their own decisions, so you're on Tesla autopilot, which works very well, by the way. I will have to give Tesla that. You'll have to somehow, you have your lanes on autopilot. You need to have these Teslas down there. So you have at most 5 people being able to go on this per individual Tesla. And then what? After that, you have a bunch of individual Teslas, a bunch of individual, essentially, engines that you have to manufacture all to get people around.
Airship, well, as you descend the escalator into the loop station...
Yep, here you are. Look how excited she is. See, individual Teslas for each people. Sure, this is great, like, if you don't want to talk to anyone, but, like, as a systemic issue, trains can transport hundreds of people per engine. This can transport 5 people, and on top of that, you have rubber waste and every single battery per Tesla being manufactured. This is fucking stupid.
Waiting to whisk you into a tunnel 43 feet below ground. Now, you might think, all right, it's like a subway. But this is more like a highway underground. And
she literally just exposed Elon Musk, by the way. I know she didn't mean to, but she just completely exposed Elon Musk. This is literally a highway underground. It's just another fucking lane underground. Subway would be way more efficient. I think it's in Las Vegas, by the way. Genuinely... They built the infrastructure for a subway and didn't put a fucking subway, and that shit pisses me off. Subway would have been so much better. You can have so many fucking passengers. It's hot as fuck in Las Vegas during the summer. Imagine if you can just get around the city underground, air conditioned, all that kind of stuff. You don't need to worry about owning a car in Las Vegas. You can just get around Las Vegas without a car and without having to walk around Las Vegas in the middle of the fucking desert during summer. They built the fucking infrastructure for a subway. Subways are some of the most expensive public transit to build because you need to build underground subway is the name. You need to build underground to build them. It's expensive. They built the infrastructure for it and they didn't build the subway, and that shit pisses me off. Instead, we have this stupid ass futuristic design for it, and of course it's in fucking Vegas.
because it's Las Vegas, this is also a thrill ride.
36 miles per hour, yeah, real cool. I mean, obviously he's making fun of it, sorry, creates the problem he never wanted to create. sets out to fix traffic causes traffic. By the way, this would always be an issue if you have one lane and multiple stations, because the cars are always going to need to slow down for the station so everyone can get out. Also, we need paint for this. I think we need paint. Holy shit. Oh yeah, 3 mile per hour tunnel. Exactly. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We did it, guys. We did it. We solved the fucking traffic by solving traffic. So, I don't know if you guys have been on a train, but this is what a train looks like. Boom, square doors. Like right here, you got a door right here. You have multiple doors per car, all within a walkway that you can easily access the door, right? Easy way to get in and out of the car. Oh my God, sorry, I cannot think. What's the name for this thing? The car, whatever it is. Easy way to get in and out very fast so you spend as little time at a station as possible. A car, to get out of the car, right? You need to open up the car. You need to go from sitting to standing and then get out, close the door, and send the Tesla on its way. You need to do that efficiently somehow and quickly. Have you guys ever been waiting on someone to get out of the car? People don't get out of cars super duper quickly. Have you seen someone get out of a train? Right before your stop, you stand up, walk over down the path and off the train. It's really cool stuff, really efficient. You're spending as little time as possible at the station, because, well, you want to get to the next station as fast as possible. With a car, you need to slow down, allow for everybody to get off, the next person to get in and sit, and then accelerate. And especially when you have one fucking lane to get into that goddamn station, no shit, you're gonna have traffic. He has just created traffic 2.0, but underground and with gamer lights. So dope. We did it, guys. Oh, whoa, we fixed fucking traffic. It's stupid. And if this becomes a mass transit situation, that's just gonna get worse and worse, and nobody's gonna fucking take this dumb shit. And then it's just gonna be billions of dollars making infrastructure that could have been used for a fucking subway without using it for a fucking subway, for this fucking techno shit. This is so fucking dumb. I don't understand why people do this. Fucking people stand these fucking Elon Musk techno nerds and shit, all to like I don't know, have a different situation than what we have already, because they think the way to fix the world is purely through fucking innovation and creating new technologies and whatever. Fucking dumb shit. And then we get this shit. Oh fuck. Oh god, oh frick, what just happened? This is way better, by the way. But, yeah, there we go. He fixed traffic, guys. He did it. He fucking did it. He did it. Real good stuff. We fucking did it. Anywho. We fixed traffic. Oh, fuck. I just spilled a fuck ton of Riesling. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, frick. It's okay. It's all on myself. It doesn't matter. Yeah, hopefully that showed you guys how stupid this fucking idiot is for thinking that this is a genuine solution to traffic. He did it. He fixed traffic. We did it. We ended traffic, guys. What would end traffic, obviously, is public transit. Because if you have dedicated tracks, there's no fucking traffic. Works really fucking well. Insane how that works, huh? Let's see, what else is on my home page? Because I'm not tired at all. I don't know if you guys are. You guys are tired at all. But, I'm enjoying this stream. I'm living it up, guys. Living it up. Living it up on this stream. I'm having the time of my life. Let me see. Let's see here. What else is there to look at? Okay, let's see how Biden's agenda is causing inflation. Let's do this. Let's learn some economics,
Tonight,
guys.
Americans already slain.
Fuck, that's loud.
by soaring prices, now getting hit even harder. New numbers showing inflation.
You know what? I am too, Simeon. Thank you. I'm having tons of fun just talking shit about like Elon Musk and conservatives and everything. It just brings me a lot of joy.
Surging to its fastest pace in nearly 40 years.
Yes, indeed. Inflation's bad, guys. But is it Biden's fault? Here's the thing, guys. The president doesn't actually have that much to do with the immediate economy. In the long run, they do, obviously, but not really in the morning. Not in the morning. In the short run, I should say. Hold on. Let's see what it was. Hold on. Text sent back to stream. But yeah, inflation, the president doesn't have that much control over it in the immediate term.
The Consumer Price Index, or CPI, tracks the cost of everyday items. It's jacked up a whopping 6.8%.
That's a lot, by the way. 6.8% is a fuck ton. Inflation is very high.
In the last year, the biggest increase in almost 40 years.
Let's see why this is Biden's fault.
Gas is up.
Listen, I'm not a fan of Biden also, but I think it's important to understand why presidents don't have as much control of their economy as we think. People, for some reason, think the president has complete control over the economy, and that's just dumb. Listen, I think Biden is no good in the long run. I think I would have preferred someone far, far more left than we have Biden. I mean, like, way more far left than Biden. But, he's the best we got in the White House right now, considering. So, let's talk about why this inflation thing isn't his fault.
Up 51%, beef is up 20%, and furniture by 11%.
I think probably in June.
It's not great. Inflation also definitely. I don't like when the Democrats were talking about inflation only being like a high class issue. Inflation affects the entire country, by the way. Inflation really affects working class people, because if you're living paycheck to paycheck because of sticky wages and all that kind of stuff, it's hard to afford things when inflation comes along. Because let's go over paint. Sticky wages, what are they? So let's say you have you're being paid a certain amount, right? Let's say you're being paid X amount of dollars, right? Let's say this is the supply of labor, the demand for labor, right? Supply of labor is, oh shit, hold on. We're gonna put X dollars over here, whatever fucking the equilibrium shit is. You guys know what I'm trying to say. You're paying X dollars per hour for, the supply of labor, all that kind of stuff. Sticky wages means that essentially wages aren't going to increase fast enough to keep up with inflation. It also means that more people will be fired or laid off in the case of a recession, but that's a different side of sticky wages. So it means that wages are probably less likely to keep up with inflation than, say, something like, I don't know, prices of other goods. Obviously, companies are less likely to increase the wage of their workers for inflation than they are for the price of goods for inflation, because, well, they need to make up the money they're spending on beef and everything, to manufacture their hamburgers for, their Hamburg, than they are to increase their workers' wages in the short run, especially when inflation is far higher than usual. So, working class families are more likely to get fucked by inflation than middle or upper class families. So middle class families also experience it. Everyone experiences inflation across the board. But so yeah, I think it was kind of dumb for Democrats to say that stuff.
It was about a dollar's worth a dollar. So now that dollar is worth about 70 cents.
This has made the nightly news sound a little too much like a rerun of That 70s Show, a sitcom set in a decade famous for...
The 70s were really bad for inflation, but inflation's not as bad as it was in the 70s.
Ever-rising prices and useless whip inflation now buttons that Gerald Ford tried to stick on everybody from running mate Bob Dole to former Beatle George Harrison. Back in the 1970s, President Ford was better known for literally and figuratively stumbling than for his economic acumen, especially when it came to inflation.
Dude, Jesus fucking Christ. Republicans always do this shit. Even with a Republican president. Gerald Ford was Republican, right? I can't remember. I don't remember my history right now. I think he was. But, Gerald Ford had no control of the inflation either. It was an oil embargo that changed this. This was supply side inflation, which is also what we're seeing right now. This is stagflation, though the economy is also improving, so it's not as bad. The issue with the 70s is that we were in a recession with inflation at the same time, which is a pretty fucking shit combination. It means prices are rising while more people are being unemployed. Just not a great combination. But Ford had no control over this. He didn't know what the fuck to do with this. Either way, though, I don't understand how any of this is relevant to Biden.
which soared into double digits shortly after he took office.
If it's shortly after he took office, how the fuck is he supposed to help the inflation?
Ford believed that the way to beat inflation was to browbeat companies into keeping prices down and Americans into becoming bargain hunters. He declared a war on high
is pretty
prices,
stupid if
referring
it's
to
true.
inflation as domestic enemy number one. I pledge to my fellow citizens that I will buy, when possible, only those products and services priced at or below present level.
Yeah, this is a way too individualist response to inflation if this is true. Just telling people to buy cheaper products is really fucking stupid. It doesn't work.
Promised Ford. Joe Biden is looking reminiscent of the 38th president, and not simply because he also has trouble with airplane steps.
Biden, his advisors, and champions in the press are ignoring the tough lessons of the past by downplaying inflation or bizarrely claiming it only.
Wait, that's not the same thing then. If Ford was saying, saying that inflation was number one priority for him, then how is he the same thing as Biden, who's downplaying inflation? That doesn't make any sense.
Freaks out rich people.
Then there's leading Democrats like Senator Elizabeth Warren, who seemed to be channeling Gerald Ford when she tweeted out that the reason you're
Wondering why your Thanksgiving groceries cost more this year? It's because greedy corporations are charging Americans extra just to keep their stock prices high. This is outrageous. This might be true to a certain extent, but yeah, it's probably a dumb tweet. Inflation is high due to the cost of goods just increasing. Like, Thanksgiving groceries cost more because it's harder to get meat around, for various reasons. So this might be a pretty dumb tweet, but I do think corporations are probably price gouging more than they should. You guys understand how this works.
for Thanksgiving groceries cost more this year was because greedy corporations are charging Americans extra just to keep their stock prices high. Even worse, Biden and crew are
Also, there is something to say about inflation and stock prices. Stock prices are going up, not necessarily because the value of the company is going up, but because, well, inflation is also going up. Stock prices do drive inflation too, by the way. If the dollar's worth less, stock prices go up. That's just how it is, Same with everything else. Let's see what else.
delusionally pronouncing that we can tame inflation by pumping massive amounts of money.
Wait, who's saying that? I'm sorry. How the fuck do you extrapolate that out of what Elizabeth Warren is saying? I just said what I think Elizabeth Warren is saying is probably not the best economic take in the world. Inflation's high across the board, and it's due in large part by supply side issues. How the fuck do you extrapolate that to say that they're funneling money to stop inflation? I don't understand. What do you mean? This is not
into the
same
economy.
thing.
A course of action that will almost certainly make everything more expensive. What Ford, Biden, Warren, and
I think most economists dispute how much inflation is caused by the government programs for COVID. Well, obviously, giving more people money does increase inflation to a certain extent, obviously. Like, anyone that says, like, inflation has been increased by any means by, the COVID programs, like stimulus checks and all that kind of stuff is dumb. But it hasn't really affected it by that much, it seems like. It seems like inflation is in large part caused by supply side issues, not demand issues, which demand issues would be those stimulus checks, by the way. And also, those stimulus checks were a fucking necessity. There was high unemployment. And I'm sorry, but I work in the restaurant industry, right? There goes my wine. Do I have any more? I don't. But I work in the restaurant industry, and this new COVID surge is fucking us. We're getting a lot of people that are calling out and everything. And honestly, yeah, they should get their wages that they were making while unemployed. I mean, like, it's COVID. We're in the middle of a pan-fucking-demic. You send people to work. People don't want to work their shit jobs. They go back after a fucking pandemic where their family members died. So they don't work. You're sad about the labor shortage. So you want to end unemployment benefits. So they force people to work. And then you get mad when businesses close because everyone's getting fucking COVID. Weird how that works, huh? I agree that people need to get back to work, but I don't necessarily know if unemployment is to blame. I think people are just fucking done with their shit work conditions, and they want those work conditions to end. Maybe instead of blaming unemployment, we should blame the fucking companies that keep treating us like shit. That's a completely different rant, by the way. Nothing to do with this. But it seems like everyone blames the wrong thing all the time.
Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen have in common is a failure to understand inflation's most important underlying cause, which the Nobel Prize-winning economist Milton Friedman was explaining with unique
Was Milton Friedman an economist?
clarity back in the 1970s.
Toward understanding the cause of inflation is to recognize that it is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon.
If you were saying this in the 70s, by the way, your fucking economic opinions are dog shit. Nobody should take anything that if you were in the 70s, my econ classes have been around stagflation in the 70s. If you're an economist from the 70s and saying that inflation is a monetary issue and not a fucking supply side issue, I don't take your opinion valid at all. Hold on, guys. I need to piss again. I need to get pee pilled one more time. Sorry, guys. I also want fruit gushers. Okay. Sorry guys, I have returned from the pee. Oh, Simeon, you sent me a video on the Snapchat. Let me look at it. Hold on, I'm gonna turn my mic off. Simeon, I was getting fruit gushers. These babies right here. You see them? Fruit gushers. It's wonderful. Good stuff. You guys should all eat them. Part of your nutritious meal every day. Yummy. I love fruit gushers so much. So yummy. Anywho, let's see what this guy has to say. Oh, yeah, like I was saying. If you believe that during the 70s that inflation was a monetary problem, not a supply side issue, I do not take anything economically you have to say valid, because literally the 70s are the example of stagflation. The economy going down and inflation going up because of supply side issues. The oil embargo, right? Gas prices were so high because we weren't getting any fucking oil.
We've seen massive increases in government spending over the past 2 years, which have been paid for by printing money and historic increases in the money supply. And when you print money, it means that there are more dollars chasing the same amounts of goods and services, which causes prices to rise. In just the past...
That is how inflation works. However, savings rates were also historically high. And everything, so that also contributed to it. So yeah, obviously the printing of money contributed to inflation. However, that doesn't explain the reason why car prices are so fucking high, or why food prices are so fucking high, or why our shelves are constantly fucking empty. This is a supply side issue, not a demand side issue broadly.
2 fiscal years, federal spending has swollen to nearly $7 trillion a year.
Because we're in the middle of a fucking pandemic, you idiot.
Up from about $4.5 trillion in 2019. That money has to be paid for.
No shit. And we're in the middle. How expensive was federal spending during the... Let's see. Federal budget, 1939 versus 1945. Let's see. I can't find any data on this, but I'm almost willing to assume that the federal budget was a lot higher in 1945 than 1939. This might be a really dumb question. Would inflation be an issue if everything was digital, like only credit cards or something? That's actually something that I asked one of my econ professors, and it seems like it would be, in the sense that even though there's a huge amount of supply for digital media, it's still limited in some way. There's still some scarcity just due to the servers and maintenance cost of it. So, like, let's just say everything's digital, like you're consuming digital media and everything. It would probably be less of an issue when there's inflation going along, but you would probably see the prices increase for digital media and everything if, like, say, the cost of inputs increase. So let's do this on Paint. So let's do a supply and demand thing for digital media, right? You got your supply and your demand, all that. Oh, sorry. This is price. This is quantity. So the thing is, supply for digital media is very inelastic. You guys know what inelastic means, right? And demand for digital media is far more elastic. Not necessarily super elastic, but you guys understand what I'm trying to say. Or actually, it's way more inelastic than what I put right up here. But there are still some scarcity with digital media, simply because you need servers and hard drives to run it. You need electricity to run those servers and hard drives, and the electricity needs inputs and everything. So if the cost of electricity goes up, digital media would also probably go up by insignificant amount, but still go up. If, let's say, the cost of computer parts go up, especially, that could affect digital media, simply because it's more expensive to store the memory of everyone's digital servers and everything. It's more expensive to hire, like, labor to keep control of that digital memory and everything. So yeah, we would still see some inflation with digital, if everything was digital, like only credit cards and stuff. And for the credit card example, right? So this is just if everything was digital, right? Like with Google and everything. But for credit cards, the thing is, money at the end of the day is just a medium of exchange. So money can be anything, right? Let's say you have this wine glass, right? You want this wine glass really bad. And I have this wine glass. And all you have to offer me is this dope boat right here. This little boat. This little wooden boat, right? I think this is a really dope boat. But just for the sake of example, let's say this. I don't think this boat is dope. I don't think I don't want this boat, essentially. But this is all you have to offer me for this dope wine glass that you really want. Meaning that we don't have any way of exchanging anything. So we have a conundrum upon us. We need to find a way to exchange these goods. So the solution for millennia has been currency, right? I want this wine glass. I don't want your boat. But what if you sell your boat, get a currency for it, but I will, no matter what, I'll accept currency for this wine glass, right? $100. Fuck yeah, I'll take that. I can get a fuck ton of shit with $100. That's the purpose of currency. Medium exchange. Finding a way, essentially, for us to trade a wine glass for a boat without actually trading this wine glass for a boat, right? I don't want the boat, but I want the currency. I sold this boat for currency, let's say $100, right? And meaning that essentially, fundamentally, what I'm doing is trading this wine glass for a boat, just without trading the wine glass for a boat, because I sold this boat for $100, right? And so I'm saying that this is worth $100. This boat to me is worth $100. And this wine glass is being sold for $100, right? Meaning that if I sold this boat for $100 and then bought this wine glass for $100, I am saying that this wine glass and this boat are worth the same amount, even if the seller didn't give a fuck about the boat, right? You guys understand that? Saying that they're worth the same, but I wouldn't trade them for each other, right? That's the purpose of currency. The issue is that because fundamentally that's what currency is, we don't have unlimited currency for everything. There has to be some sort of scarcity there. I don't have unlimited boats and I don't have unlimited wine glasses. Same thing with labor, right? I don't have unlimited hours to spend working, right? I need to be paid for those hours. I need some sort of opportunity cost. And that business needs to pay for those electricity bills and everything. And well, you just giving them boats are not going to pay for the electricity bills. So with credit cards, even though it is indeed digital money, which can inherently be unlimited, so can, well, any currency, right? It can be unlimited for any currency. And the reason that credit cards still have some scarcity to them is that A, it costs money to build those credit cards, but also that well, you're being paid for your labor, right? And you don't have unlimited hours to trade with people, because fundamentally that's what working is. You're trading your hours for currency, right? And I guess if you want to look at the fundamentals of an economic transaction, if I work for, let's say, 5 hours and I earn, I don't know, whatever, like $100, let's just say $20 an hour, and I buy this boat that's worth $100, I'm saying that this boat is worth 5 hours of my labor. Credit cards don't change that, or debit cards, I should say. If I buy something for $100 and swipe my credit card, right, it still says that this boat is worth 5 hours of my labor, is what I'm saying. 5 hours of my labor, that's what this is worth. And that's what currency is doing, fundamentally. Just finding a way to exchange that. A boat for my labor. Even though the shop doesn't need my labor, right? That's what currency does. It's a medium of exchange that everyone accepts. Same thing with debit cards, right? I am still trading my labor for the boat. Now it's just digitally. Now I have a credit card saying that I'm doing it. And now this boat, I'm saying, is worth 5 hours of my labor. So I've given 5 hours of labor to the shop for this boat. And the debit card is still doing that, even though I haven't exchanged any paper currency. I hope that makes sense. I don't know if that does. I don't know if I over-explained it. But I think when it comes to scarcity, because that's what you're asking, if inflation would still be an issue, because inflation is only an issue due to scarcity. Scarcity is an issue no matter what we're using as a medium of exchange. Currency is simply a way to have a universally recognized medium of exchange, because when we're talking about people living in a society, not everybody accepts one thing for another, right? Like, this is the problem with bartering economies and everything. Currency works as a universally accepted medium of exchange, and even it's completely digitized, right? There still needs to be some sort of trade for that, right? In the sense of, like I was saying, this boat's worth 5 hours of my labor to me. I need to somehow trade 5 hours of my labor for this boat, and that's going to be currency. That's what the shop accepts, is currency, and that's what I'm giving them, right? But fundamentally, what I'm trading is 5 hours of my labor for this boat. I think this boat is so dope that it's worth 5 hours of my labor, and I need to find a way to trade 5 hours of my labor with that. So yeah, inflation would still be an issue, because the thing is, if, like, let's say everybody's given money into their debit card accounts, right? Like, let's just say for whatever reason, everyone's given an extra $1,000. Now everybody has an extra $1,000 to spend, and maybe, perhaps, indeed, to me, fundamentally, this boat is only worth 5 hours of my labor, right? But if 5 hours of my labor is now, I'm getting paid an extra $10 an hour, fundamentally, I'm still trading 5 hours of my labor for this boat, but 5 hours of my labor is now maybe worth $120 instead of $100. So now I'm paying $120 to this retailer. So there's still been some sort of inflation, right? Instead of it's $120 now, but still 5 hours of my labor. And I want to make sure of that. So yeah, it would still be an issue, I guess. I don't know if that makes any sense. Let me know if that doesn't make sense. But that is indeed the issue. Inflation would still be an issue just because there'd be heightened demand if everybody's getting an extra $1,000 into their paycheck, right? There's now increased demand for these boats, with the same amount of boats being supplied, meaning people are going to demand higher prices for everything. Okay, perfect. Yes, makes sense. Awesome. So I hope that makes sense. Digital currency still works the same way fundamentally.
For eventually by the American people one way or another.
And I don't think it's a dumb question, because I asked the literal exact same question.
Traditionally, that means higher taxes, cuts in services, and inflation, or a combination of the three.
The real tax on the American people is what government spends.
And politicians generally prefer printing money to raising taxes or cutting services.
Inflation is a tax which is imposed without representation.
Also, I will say that inflation would still occur if, even if governments wanted a balanced budget because of the savings rate. So let's get paint up. Good basic econ talk for you guys. So let's say you have a, a savings rate of 0.8, right? A spending rate of 0.8, meaning you spend 80% of your income and save 20%, right? So, meaning that you're only putting 80% of the dollars you earn back into the economy, meaning only 80% of your dollars you earn have the potential of causing inflation, right? Because 20% of your income just isn't doing anything for the economy. It's not being spent or anything. You guys understand what I mean. There's no money multiplier being done by this 20%. There might be for banks and loans and everything, but it's just not as effective as this 80% of your income actually being spent on goods and services within the economy, right? So we'll put this as C for consumption and S for spending. The thing is, the issue is that government spending can also cause inflation simply because 100% of tax revenue to the government goes into government spending. government doesn't really have a savings rate. They just spend all their money on social programs and everything because they're getting more money year after year and everything. They don't necessarily have a savings rate. And in years where they're getting less money, in the case of a recession, they go into debt instead in order to pay off those increased expenses, not just trying to find a balanced budget. So yeah, no, that's not how inflation works.
Presentation.
Also, I'll say they haven't explained why Biden's agenda is causing inflation.
Which nobody has to vote for. And of course, it's a marvelous tax from the point of view of a congressman trying to meet the demands of his constituents for more spending.
Politicians and government economists will even claim that the way to drive down inflation is by handing out more goodies.
Yeah. What this package will do...
Is this about Build Back Better? Is that what they're trying to say? Because Build Back Better and the infrastructure bill would help, like, kind of put lubricant into the way the economy works and supply chains and everything. Making supply chains more efficient, making all the inefficiency of the supply chain kind of go away, would bring down costs because the cost to ship goods would go down, which would help lower inflation. If that's what they're talking about. But direct like government goodies, like, spending money on healthcare, or maybe healthcare would help drive down inflation because it bring down the cost of healthcare for more people. But I'm like, just giving people money doesn't drive down inflation. It honestly does drive up inflation to a certain extent. But the problem is, like, sure, like, it drives up inflation a little bit, but if people are still earning more money after inflation, who cares? So yeah, that's all I gotta say on that.
Lower some of the most important costs, what they pay for health care, for child care.
Yeah, literally. So they lower these costs, which then brings down inflation. If you make healthcare cheaper, that lowers inflation because inflation is the increased price of goods and services. If goods and services get cheaper, that lowers inflation.
And it's anti-inflationary in that sense as well.
When the president and his advisors touted the passage of his $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill and
only $100 billion per year, by the way. That's not an insane increase in the budget. That's like maybe like a 2-3% increase in the budget. $1 trillion over 10 years is fucking nothing. That will not increase inflation. The military industrial complex increases inflation far more than any of this shit, by the way. Because, well, it's spending more money on these programs. You know what I mean?
Promised that even more was on the way through the Build Back Better bill and other legislation. They insisted that spending...
Like, imagine having such a brain-dead take on inflation that you think spending is the only thing that drives inflation. Spending can reduce inflation if it lowers fucking costs, you idiot.
More money will somehow make everything more affordable by increasing long-term economic capacity.
Yes, that's how it works.
According to economic experts, this bill is going to ease inflationary pressures, lowering the cost of working families. 17 Nobel laureates in economics wrote a letter to me saying this is going to...
Also, he hasn't explained any way in that Biden's agenda is causing inflation.
Bring inflation down, not up.
That's precisely backward, because the government will be printing even more money to pay for Biden's bill.
Okay, listen, like I said, I'm not a big Biden fan, but doesn't Biden's plan involve just closing tax loopholes to help, pay for these bills? Like, I think he said somehow closing all the tax loopholes and also just increasing tax enforcement will make it so that they don't have to go into debt. And the only way that printing more money causes inflation is if that money goes into circulation. We print money all the fucking time to pay for bills like this. But printing more money might hypothetically cause inflation, but if it causes prices of goods to go down because it lubricates, the supply chain and everything, then printing more money won't fucking matter because inflation goes down. If anything, unironically, it means more people have money in their pockets. Yeah, I know. I know that we were always like, oh, printing more money would just like make it so that everyone gets more money back when we were younger before we understood inflation. But unironically, if printing more money leads to less inflation because it lubricates the supply chain, then more people just have money in their pocket. Yeah, that would actually be how it works.
As the government borrows more money to pay for its spending, and the Fed prints money to buy that debt, the central bank's balance sheet has more than doubled between March 2020 to November 2020.
Yes, because we needed insane spending to deal with the COVID pandemic. Also, Build Back Better has nothing to do with between March 2020 and November 2021, because these bills, I think maybe the infrastructure bill got passed, but Build Back Better is now fucking dead in the water. But wait, this is quantitative easing. This has nothing to fucking do with anything, like what they're saying. Or maybe it does. Fuck. Quantitative easing is basically just buying government bonds, essentially. So what quantitative easing is you have the Federal Reserve, right? Let's say you have the Federal Reserve. We're just going to draw them really quick, right? Federal Reserve right here, and the main purpose of the Federal Reserve is to handle inflation, right? Make sure that inflation is good. Make sure that it doesn't get too high or too low, because low inflation is also really bad, by the way, guys. Super low inflation means nobody's spending in the economy, and that's really fucking bad. But what quantitative easing is essentially the Federal Reserve either buying or selling government bonds. We're just going to say B for bond. If it sells bonds, right, meaning that you can buy bonds, it is taking money out of the economy, and selling bonds means that they are putting money into the economy. Let's see. I'm sorry, I can't remember what their fucking
more money
was.
to pay for its spending, and the Fed prints money to buy that debt. The central bank's balance sheet has more than doubled between March 2020 to November.
Okay, never mind. I guess they're technically correct.
The result is that the supply of dollars has increased by nearly 40% over the past 2 years, which is an
This is true. There's been a lot more dollars in the economy, but the question is, how much is this influencing inflation versus I guess supply chain issues? Because the thing is, the lack of computer parts, the lack of new cars, the lack, energy prices, especially here on the West Coast, since we import most of our gas. When how do I say it? When ports get backed up, because we import most of our gas from the Middle East here on the West Coast, if the port of Los Angeles or something gets backed up, it means that we can't get our fuel, which means fuel prices increase. That's a supply chain issue. That's a supply side issue, not a demand side issue, because the demand for fuel is still there.
Charts record. But there's no reason to believe that Joe Biden or anyone else in Washington is committed to the type of fiscal and monetary discipline that would actually tame inflation.
What kind of fiscal and monetary discipline? Because I will say, if you're looking to solve, I guess, you know what? Actually, I'm not going to comment on this because I'm not enough of an expert on it.
In fact, his infrastructure bill jacks the very entitlement spending that is the major driver of long-term.
It's not. The fucking entitlement spending doesn't drive long-term inflation. It doesn't. The issues with inflation, like food and especially used cars, the reason used car prices are going up is because nobody can buy new cars. That increases the price of used cars, obviously. So why aren't we getting new cars? Is it because everyone's making too much money and buying up all the new cars? No, it's because we aren't getting the fucking computer chips to manufacture them because of computer chip shortage. That's a supply issue, not a demand issue. Listen, I'm not trying to say that demand issues haven't caused inflation at all. They have. Indeed, it is true that the spending that happened during COVID-19 did indeed cause inflation, but it seems like the majority of inflation is coming from supply side issues.
Term spending. Not only is he trying to expand access to and coverage offered by existing programs such as Medicare and Medicaid, he's pushing for tax credits for parents and new entitlements for childcare and universal preschool. Another thing that's changed over the past 40 years is that the publicly held debt has more than quintupled as a share of GDP.
In 2022, the Congressional Budget Office predicts that interest payments on the debt
Gee, I wonder
will
why.
be 5.7% of total spending.
That is quite
And
a
then
lot.
it will more than double to 11.6% by 2031.
That might be an issue.
And that's assuming interest rates stay low. Squeezing inflation out of the economy.
The way to solve this is not necessarily by not getting into more debt, but instead like trying to at least raise taxes and everything to how do I say it? Make sure that we have at least a more balanced budget to make sure that the deficit isn't as insanely large. But the thing is that wait a second. Hold on.
And then it will more.
Is this just assuming that like if we continue the COVID spending into perpetuity, that that would lead to our total spending on interest as a percentage of GDP to as a percentage of the federal government to increase to 11.7%? No shit. But I don't think the COVID spending is going to keep going on into forever. I mean, this is a completely misleading statistic. This is just assuming that we continue spending like we are spending during the COVID pandemic into 2031, which just isn't gonna fucking happen. That's not how this shit works. Why would they continue COVID spending after COVID? That doesn't make any fucking sense. Why would they do that?
To 11.6% by 2031. And that's assuming interest rates stay low. Squeezing inflation out of the economy by hiking interest rates is never a popular political stance. Since it will absolutely devastate the government's balance sheet, it'll be even harder this time.
Inflation is just like alcoholism. In both cases, when you start drinking or when you start printing too much money, the good effects come first. The bad effects only come later.
And get this, even the price of booze is going up. So not only will we have more sorrows, it's going to cost us more to drown them.
The bad effects
out of the economy by...
So I don't know how much the debt and inflation. I think if anything, more government debt helps drive down inflation. The 2076 COVID spending, literally, like we keep spending COVID spending into forever. But yeah, so what I think they're trying to say is somehow that inflation, the best way to cut inflation. So the best way to cut inflation from purely monetary spending is to somehow take money out of the economy at the end of the day. Just take money out of the economy and then inflation will help go down. But that's only if you like try and tackle supply side inflation via monetary policy. This wouldn't work when it's supply side inflation at the end of the day. During the 1970s, the best way to stop inflation was to fix the issue why we weren't getting the supplies that we need, to end the oil embargo, to, get more resources for the economy, essentially. And right now, inflation wouldn't stop just because we cut interest rates and everything, even though that would help inflation, I guess. But the best way to do it is to lubricate the economy, get us more computer chips and everything. That would help bring down inflation too. I think next year it's projected to have back to 2% inflation. But when all the supply chains finally fucking fix themselves. Sorry. But yeah, let's just tell you guys.
By hiking interest rates is never a popular political stance. Since it will absolutely devastate the government's balance sheet, it'll be even harder this time.
Inflation is just like alcoholism.
Oh, we already watched that. Okay, that was a cool inflation video, but also a very dumb inflation video. Blacks in power don't empower. That's a little bit sussy. Should we watch that one? What's the next video we're gonna watch? Goodbye Columbus Day could also be a fun PragerU video. Oops, sorry. The Diversity Delusion. That sounds very sus. The Game of Loans by PragerU. What else can we watch, guys? Oh, I watched this one, by the way. Here's the thing, guys. I just got done defending Democrats. Let's shit on Democrats for a little bit.
There's a question
I think this is a really good video, by the way.
I've had for
I've already
a
watched
very
it.
long time, and it has to do with this map. This is a map of the 18 states in the US where Democrats control the legislative and executive branches, or else have some veto-proof majority in the legislature. Democrats in DC often blame the GOP for foiling their progressive vision.
When middle-class families...
This is true, by the way. Democrats like to put the blame on Republicans. By the way, at the end of the day, it is completely Republicans' fault that our government is completely dysfunctional. Haven't seen this before. Should be fun. Yeah, it should be. It is Republicans' fault that our government is completely dysfunctional. They will never ever compromise on anything. But yeah, Democrats definitely blame Republicans for their own failings sometimes, in the sense that they'll like, oh, look how bad the Republicans are, guys. We can't do anything. It sucks, guys. Like, what are we gonna do? Oh no. Democrats do that shit all the time. So we're going to keep watching.
See their taxes go up, they'll know Republicans are to blame.
But if you zoom into these 18 states, there's effectively no Republicans standing in the way. So my question is, what do Democrats actually do when they have all the power?
This is very true.
To answer this question,
Democrats are objectively better than Republicans. However, Democrats do just posture a lot. We need to hold Democrats accountable. They need to focus on their campaign promises. Instead, they just blame Republicans. It's a good, easy cop-out to blame Republicans for the failings of the Democrats sometimes. Which is true to a certain extent. When Democrats have control of Congress, obviously Democrats can't get through anything. And when Republicans aren't willing to compromise on anything, it makes it hard for Democrats to get anything done.
I teamed up with the Times editorial board writer Binya Applebaum.
Okay, you got my attention.
He's been thinking about and writing books about and reporting on this topic for decades.
I think, Americans tend to view politics as a competition of us versus them, and they tend to think that if they would just get out of the way, then we can do the things that we want to do.
It's true to a certain extent. If the Republican Party didn't exist, our country would objectively be a better place.
There is no them standing in the way. There's just the we of Democrats and their supporters, and they get to decide what policy should look like in those states, and that is an opportunity for them to implement their vision.
For this story, I also delved into this giant document. It is the 2020 Democratic Party platform. If you want to really understand what Democrats say they want, what their vision is for America, it's found inside of this document. This document serves as a guide as we zoom into these states to answer this question. What do Democrats really do when they have all the power?
Nearly 554,000 homeless people
from the 25 wealthiest Americans
It's true.
They're paying little in income taxes compared to their fortunes, sometimes nothing at all.
We cannot, in good faith, blame the Republican Party when House Democrats have a majority.
There's still very
DOC is completely true.
In all kinds of forms all over this country.
Okay, so let's start with California. To me, California is like the quintessential liberal state. From the state legislature to the whole...
Yep, look, we have Democrats have a 2/3 majority in both the House and the Senate, meaning that there's no way Republicans are getting anything done in these things. Republicans can't do shit. Democrats will veto it, too.
Executive branch to most of the big cities, Dems hold majority control. So what do they do with all this power?
Looking at California, you have to look at housing.
Okay, now wait, listen. When I hear the words housing policy, I tend to sort of doze off. But Binya insists that housing policy and what is happening in California is definitely worth looking at.
You cannot say that you are against inequality in America unless you are willing to have affordable housing built in your neighborhood.
And Democrats completely agree. Here in this document, the word housing is mentioned over 100 times.
The neighborhood where you're born has a huge influence on the rest of your life. Children who are born in neighborhoods with degraded environmental conditions, with a lack of access to high-quality public services, poor schools, poor public transit, are at a permanent disadvantage.
And they even say verbatim,
nothing to add to that, by the way. It's completely true.
Stable, accessible, safe, healthy, energy efficient, and above all, affordable.
Housing is a human right.
Housing is a human right.
The rent is going through the roof. Housing is a human right.
How does California do when it comes to housing?
You know where those signs are when you drive into a state, it says, "Welcome to California"? They might as well replace them with signs that say, "Keep out." Because in California, the cost of housing is so high that for many people, it's simply unaffordable. The state has simply...
True that, by the way. California is insanely
For the
expensive.
most part, stopped building housing. I mean, there are cranes, there's housing going up, but...
This is completely true, by the way. You guys want to know something funny? Of San Jose is zoned for single family. So if we want to look at something, San Jose, one of the biggest cities in California, 94% of it is zoned for single family households. Single family homes only. One of the largest cities in California, 94% of it is zoned for single family houses. New housing is not being built because of zoning laws like this. Getting rid of single family housing zoning is a good step. I think Governor Newsom did a good thing. I wonder, let's replace that with Los Angeles. Big other urban sprawl. 80% of its land, is that what it's saying? Medium city bans apartments on 80% of its land for housing. Yep. 80% of the land in Los Angeles is not zoned for multi-unit households, essentially. So yeah, that's pretty good stuff. Housing's not being built, which is not great. And that's increasing the cost of housing because it's choking the supply of housing. If there's more people moving to a state, right, and some of those people are earning a lot more income, then prices of housing goes up. That's supply and demand, baby.
Slowed down over time really, really sharply, and it is nowhere near sufficient to keep pace with California's population. And so what you have is not enough housing and too many people trying to get it. And the inevitable result is that prices have gone up and away.
The median price of a home in San Diego County is now a staggering $830,000.
True that.
All around California, there are cities full of people who say that they are progressive, they're liberals. They believe in a more equal America, a more diverse America. They show up to the marches, they put in the lawn signs about everyone being equal, but at the same time, they're actively fighting to keep their neighborhoods looking like this.
This, by the way, this image right here is horrible for housing. On this plot of land, right, you got this guy right here, you have a plot of lands. And you have a house that might house 5 people, let's say, 2 parents, 3 kids, let's just say. That is not efficient. Imagine if this plot of land could fit 3 or 4 units that could house 5 people. Bada bing, bada boom. That is a much more economic use of this land space. But because private property and all that kind of stuff, we're only giving out this property to a couple of people, that leads to only a few people living on each square foot of land, essentially, each plot of lands, and it means that the price of housing per person goes way up, especially when so much of the city is zoned for only houses like that. It means a lot of the land is not being used for a lot of people. It means only a few people live on an insane family house. Single family housing is awful. My hot take is that you should only live in single family housing unless it's like a townhouse or something, I suppose. If you live in the suburbs, like way out in the suburbs, right? Other than that, you should either use multi-family housing or townhouses. Those townhouses will be very expensive, but still way more dense than anything like what we're looking at on screen right now. Yeah, single family housing is fucking awful.
Okay, wait, but that doesn't look so bad. It's just a bunch of houses in a neighborhood, right? No, it turns out that this is actually the result of specific policies, intentional policies that keeps these neighborhoods spread out and full of single-family homes. as opposed to higher density buildings like duplexes or apartment complexes. This is a real serious fight, and you can get a glimpse into it by looking at a zoning map. Yes, we're looking at a municipal zoning map of Palo Alto, California. Don't
One of the most expensive cities in California, by the way.
leave yet.
Stanford.
This is really where
Stanford's in
it
Palo
sinks in,
Alto.
so just stick around. So everything on this map that is yellow is zoned for single-family homes, like this and this. One family can live here. But here in Palo Alto, there are a lot of new jobs. This is a desirable place to live.
People
for new
commute to Palo
opportunities.
Alto.
Over the past 8 years, the San Francisco area has added 676,000 jobs, but only 176,000 housing units.
Meaning everyone else has to commute to the Bay Area. Commuting is fucking god-awful.
So a few years ago, the city council voted to change the zoning of one section of the city right here. Specifically this 2-acre plot of land. They wanted to change it from low density housing to higher density housing so that they could build a 60-unit affordable housing complex for elderly members of the community. Okay, so they changed the zoning. Start building the 60-unit complex. No, the overwhelmingly liberal residents of Palo Alto decided to hold a vote to overturn the decision, to revert it back to low-density, single-family housing. Back to yellow. And it passed.
Yep, this is true. And also that low-income housing would not have an insane, effect on your property value. You'd still have an insane property value that would still continue to go up, by the way. Yeah, no, this is what people do. They want to keep their property values high, so they stop low-income housing, which is just really bad. You are stopping people from being able to move into your community because you don't want your property value to go down. That's really fucking fucked. That's fucked. And this is what happens a lot. A lot of liberal communities, so-called progressive communities, will completely just fuck over poor people because they're like, it just wouldn't work in our community. Low-income housing wouldn't work. High-density housing just wouldn't work. We should have more single-family households, essentially, because that's how the community is. When in reality, multi-unit low-income housing especially would really help. And also, not to mention, look at the way it's zoned, right? The yellow is single-family households, purple is different, I guess, all these other things. That means, especially look at some of these streets and everything, it's really hard to get from single-family households down to the businesses. You need to have a car-centric infrastructure too. Meaning it's really hard to make it without a car.
And the zoning was overturned. So now when you go to this plot of land, instead of an affordable housing complex for the elderly, what you're gonna see is this. A row of just a few houses, all of them massive and worth around $5 million each.
I think people aren't living their values. You go to these meetings in these neighborhoods where they're talking about a new housing project, and it's always the same song, and it goes like this. I am very in favor of affordable housing. We need more of it in this community. However, I have some concerns about this project.
We have the hearts to do this, but we're doing it wrong, and we're dictating and harm onto the neighborhoods.
And then off we go with the concerns, and then nothing ever gets built.
This is
This is
happening
true.
all over.
So I've always been an advocate to improve your, to do the best with what you can within a given system. Like, I never have any problem with people being like living in luxury. I don't have any inherent problem with that. Like socialists, living in luxury or like buying expensive clothes and everything, or buying an expensive car. I don't give a fuck about that. But if a socialist then decides, I'm going to stop this affordable housing unit so that I can have increased property value, I think you've done something wrong. I think there's something fundamentally different about trying to make the best you can within a system and then fucking other people over within that system. Very different things that you're doing.
California. And the result is that these neighborhoods are so expensive that they keep anyone out who isn't a part of this small group of super rich residents.
This is true. Super rich, like liberals, essentially. These liberals who preach about helping people out, making sure that poor people have better opportunities and everything. These people are better than like Republicans taking their place. Don't get me wrong. I'd much prefer every of these suburbs to be filled with rich white liberals and fucking Republicans and everything. But at the end of the day, they're not doing their part. They're not doing their best. You know what I mean? They're not really helping anything. making things worse, one might say. Instead, it's really easy to preach all these things, but when you actually have to live it, when you actually have to do something about it, it's much harder.
Decades ago, and who spend their time fighting vigorously to keep the value of their real estate assets super high.
If you want to keep Palo Alto the kind of neighborhood and community that we all treasure, low intensity, low density, safe for kids to walk to school, you've got to vote against Measure D.
Nothing makes high density less safe for kids to walk to school, by the way. It makes it easier to walk to school, by the way. It makes it shorter of a walk. But if you're just only focused on keeping your neighborhood the way it is, go fuck yourself.
An aspect of sort of greed here and of nervousness about actually sharing those opportunities.
Let's go to another liberal bastion up here in Washington State. The Democratic Party talks about taxation, saying that our tax code has been, quote, rigged against the American people. Democrats all the time are decrying the fact that tax cuts are going to the wealthiest Americans.
It is time for a wealth tax in America.
Democrats believe in a progressive tax system where the rich pay a larger share of their income than the poor. This is like the most basic policy vision of like a progressive movement. It's front and center in Democrats' policy platform.
But if you go and look at Washington State, what you find is that in Washington State, if you look at the state and local taxes that people pay there, less affluent families pay a much larger share of their income in taxes than the wealthiest residents of Washington State. So people like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos, two of the state's most famous and wealthy residents, are in this lovely situation of paying less in taxes as a share of their income than the poor people who live in that same state. And this is a fundamental inversion of the values that the Democratic Party professes. There's no state with a more regressive system of taxation than Washington State.
And I'm talking most
I don't know anything about
regressive.
Washington's
You mean
taxation system.
Texas, which is like the conservative bastion of like anti-taxes, is more progressive than Washington State. Liberal
Holy shit,
Washington
that's really
State.
bad.
How is that real? Oh, and guess what? Other states on our map also are in the top 10 of most regressive tax regimes, like Nevada and Illinois.
There have been some changes, particularly in recent years, but the overall situation remains resistant to change.
So
I don't know anything about this, so I have nothing to say.
At this time, which is a very poor time to disincent people from creating jobs in Washington State, that we're even considering it.
From that paycheck that you earn, more of that money is going to state government, and so the effect of that is basically to exacerbate inequality.
Okay, so rich liberals don't show up when it comes to housing or taxes. Another major theme in this policy document is education.
Let's see about
and
this
the
one.
wording in here I find quite interesting. The Democrats say, quote, we must provide world-class education in every zip code to every child because education is a critical public good. They use this word zip code to represent the fact that in America, schools get their funding based on the real estate taxes of the houses within that school district. The more expensive the neighborhood, the more funding goes to the...
California is really bad with this, by the way. I'm not gonna lie. Cupertino has a fantastic school district.
So, over here in Illinois, which is like the quintessential liberal state, there's this one county that contains the city of Chicago. It's called Cook County. The residents here voted overwhelmingly for Democratic candidates in the presidential and senatorial elections last year. Often what would happen is that this would just be one big school district and that all the taxes from all the towns in this county would be put into one bucket and distributed equally throughout the county. But the residents of this very blue Democratic county have actually decided to divide themselves into more than 140 school districts. So now you have all these tiny school districts like this one, which are like gerrymandered around the richest part of town. And so all of the taxes from these rich homeowners go into one little bucket and then only get distributed to the schools within this rich region of the county.
It can be on the same block.
Yeah, that's pretty fucked.
That the town line runs through the middle of it. And if you live on one side of that line, you're consigned to an inferior education by virtue of the fact that you and your neighbors don't have as much money. And
this is completely true. Like, my experience with like rich liberals and everything has been mostly like there's been this weird discontent with the poor, especially homeless people, right? And that they'll talk about how bad Trump and the Republicans are, and don't get me wrong, they are. And then they won't do anything really. They'll still talk shit about like homeless people and everything and how they're scary and that they're going to attack them. And yeah, that's what they do. It's pretty shit, not gonna lie. And really hypocritical. You're gonna say that you should help these people, but also look at them with an insane amount of discontent. Same thing with this. You say that you want to provide better education for more people, but then also have your property taxes only go to, you know, helping out your people within your thing. Make sure your kids have really good education, and then everyone else's kids get fucked.
And if you live on the other side, you're basically a member of a club that is sponsoring a private school, essentially, for the benefit of that small group of kids who are lucky enough to live in that affluent community. And the result is that poor communities have less money to educate their children, and rich communities have more money to educate their children. This is crazy. It means basically that the kids who have the greatest needs have the fewest resources.
The same thing is happening in wealthy, liberal Connecticut.
People within different communities need, especially poor communities, need better education, you know, more education opportunities, especially with college and everything, to get out of the situation that they are, because having easy access to college helps you get out of poverty.
Where the inequality in education opportunities is shameful, with some schools having huge budgets for their libraries and facilities, and others in the same state having to use duct tape to keep wind and snow out of their windows. Like, this is a real thing.
We need your help in establishing guidelines, procedures, and funding to address issues negatively impacting our students, like extreme temperatures, mold, lead exposure, and poor water and air quality.
So yeah, Binya tells me that the states could change this. They could actually just collect all the real estate taxes and then equally distribute them. But if you look at some of our liberal strongholds, that is exactly what they are not doing.
Very true.
Let me be clear about something. In blue states, progress is being made, albeit slowly. For instance, a few weeks ago, California finally passed a law that gets rid of single-family zoning.
Which is very based, by the way. Definitely support this.
It's a small step in the right direction. And in many cases, blue states provide more and better public services, and historically have given better chances to low-income.
This is very true. Blue states have better access to abortion, more public services and everything. Blue states are better than red states. The issue is they can do a lot more, and they're not. They're not living up to their values. They do what's easy and comfortable, and then don't do anything after that.
Income families to climb the economic ladder. But for some of these foundational democratic values of housing equality, progressive taxation, and education equality, Democrats don't actually embody their values very well.
We're talking, once again, about a system that's been rigged.
Republicans today are to blame. What we're talking about here is that blue states are the problem. Blue states are where the housing crisis is located. Blue states are where the disparities in...
So, okay, I don't like this rhetoric simply because while I do obviously think that blue states are where the housing problems are, that's just because that's where more people are, and just, yeah, that's just more people, more city. Blue states tend to have the cities and everything, while Texas is red state, still has very blue cities and everything. Blue states are not the problem when it comes to these issues, because red states saying you're better than the status quo is terrible. Quo is terrible. Is it much? No, it's not much at all. But yeah, no, saying you're better than the status quo isn't much. But given like what we have, I think, you know, anything that's better than the Republicans is what, you know, is better than the Republicans. But like I'm saying, it's not much. Like, Democrats aren't doing like much of what they should be doing. The Democratic Party sucks. They suck. They're not the top tier things that we should be going for. At the end of the day, Democrats don't do enough to solve social programs. Democrats don't do enough to like help the poor. Democrats don't do enough to provide a broader social safety net. Democrats don't do enough of anything. Democrats suck butt. They suck. They suck doo-doo. They're poopy. They're stinky. They suck. However, the Republicans are the poopiest and the stinkiest party out there. And given the fact, given the choice between the two poopy stinky parties, I will choose the least poopy stinky party, while also trying to make sure that we don't have to be stuck with the least poopy stinky party forever.
Education funding are the most dramatic. Blue states are.
But yeah, what I'm more trying to say is that this is a systemic issue that red states also deal with, just on a less of a grandiose extent, just because they tend to have less cities and everything. But if you look at some place like Texas, they are cheaper because they have a lot of land. So it's easy to build single family households. But as more people move to Texas, you're going to see the same housing crisis that you see in blue states move to Texas as well, simply because their infrastructure cannot handle everyone moving to Texas, right? If everyone moves to Texas, they're going to also see a housing crisis because they have zoning based on single family households and everything. It's just not fantabulous.
Are the places where tens of thousands of homeless people are living on the streets. Blue states are the places where economic inequality is increasing most quickly in this country. This is not a problem of not doing well enough. It is a situation where the blue states are the problem.
Affluent liberals tend to be really good at showing up to the marches and talking about how they love equality. They're really good at putting signs in their lawns saying that all are welcome here. But by their actions, what they're actually saying is, yes, we believe in these ideals, just not in my backyard.
We are not living our values. People who live in blue states, people who profess liberal values,
this is true.
You need to look in the mirror and need to understand that they are not taking the actions that are consistent with those values, not just incidentally, not just in small areas, but that some of the most important policy choices. We are denying people the opportunity to prosper and to thrive and to build better lives, and it is happening in places where Democrats control the levers of policy.
Yeah, absolutely. Liberalism is better than conservatism. True. However, liberalism does not go far enough. Liberalism is inherently pro status quo to a certain extent, and the idea that we can just solve these issues by somehow just only saying, oh yeah, racism is bad, but also I don't want any low income housing near my neighborhood, doesn't solve the issues. If you're anti-racism, you need to be anti these systemic issues, such as housing. Just saying, performative wokeness, saying hey guys, you need to make sure you watch your speech and everything, but then also don't allow for, affordable housing and everything, doesn't solve anything. That's fucking stupid. That's how are you supposed to say you're anti-racist but not solve any of the systemic issues that perpetuate racism? It's just dumb. You will sometimes signal at Black Lives Matter and say yo guys, I understand what you're going through, and you guys are valid, and yeah, fuck the system, but also anywho, I'm not gonna let these affordable housing be built in my neighborhood. It's just not really what I want. It's just not my vibe. Seems a little bit not like what I want. That's what these guys kind of sound like they're saying. They're pretty much just saying housing is indeed a human right, but also no housing in my neighborhood. That's just what a lot of this liberal shit is them saying these very progressive values, but also not, essentially. That's really the issue with a lot of these things, is that when you have an issue that's fundamentally systemic, you need to tackle the system that is perpetuating it. It's the same thing with when Democrats talk about racism and healthcare and housing and so many of these things, is that broadly they are systemic issues, right? Racism in the modern context is extremely systemic. It's always been systemic, but we don't have the very cut black and white Jim Crow or slavery anymore. It's economic racism. It's with housing and everything. It is a system that consistently produces worse outcomes for not just members of the black community, but any member of community where people of color live in. It's systemically that these people are given less opportunities, that if you are born into certain areas, certain communities, you're less likely to succeed because of systemic issues. Because of that, if you want to tackle racism, you can't just say the Republicans are racist, blah, 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 blah. Like, no shit, the Republicans are racist. We've always known that. But they're perpetuating a system which, well, perpetuates racism is the best way I can put it. And that's what I mean. It's just so fucking annoying to have people tell you, like, we need to end racism, but I'm not actually going to do anything meaningful to address racism. I'm just going to call Trump a racist. No shit, Trump's a racist. What can we do to stop his racist policies meaningfully? And at the end of the day, Trump, like, Democrats don't do a lot for that. They do better than the Republicans, yay, but it's just not enough. That's more what I'm just trying to get at. And especially when it comes to rich liberals, is that they will profess, say like, oh, we need more housing and everything. But I really like my suburban neighborhood, and I don't want affordable housing to be built here. So I'm going to stop that. I'm going to stop them building affordable housing here. That way I can live my really comfortable life away from all the systemic issues that I preach against. I'm not saying to be a good moral person who believes and wants to change issues that you need to necessarily be homeless or like be extremely poor and everything. I think you can be rich and be a leftist too. I don't give a fuck. But to say that you are anti-homelessness, anti-racism, but at the same time perpetuate systems that keep people that, perpetuate racism, that's where I feel there's the moral failing in that aspect. Is to stop affordable housing from being built is, I think, the moral wrong. And that's what liberals do all the time. It's really annoying. It doesn't fundamentally change the system, which sometimes needs to be changed. If something is consistently producing racist outcomes, maybe it's that system that needs to be changed, You can't just keep focusing on the individual or just keep preaching to the choir, right? You got to do something to change it. And especially when genuine proposals that can help people are being proposed within your neighborhood, and you stop him because you think your neighborhood is the exception, that's where I think the moral failing comes. But yeah, that's just, I guess, my 2 cents on it. Nothing more to say. It's the same thing when people talk about compromises with healthcare and everything. Healthcare, I think, needs to be universal. I don't think there's much of a compromise in that. Medicare for all who want it, I think, is better than the system we have now, but it's not what we want. We want Medicare for all. We want fucking universal healthcare. That's what'll do it. That's what'll make everyone feel better. And if you want to end, systemic racism, systemic poverty, all these issues, universal healthcare can really help that. So get on board with it. It's really easy, I should say, to critique systems when you are living within, I guess, the most comfortable aspect of it. Like, it's really easy to preach to the choir, preach anti-racism and all that, but then when it starts to affect you, suddenly you back down. Suddenly you don't want to make any of the sacrifices to, like, your home value, perhaps. You back away and don't want to do, touch any of that. It's really easy to do that when none of these issues affect you, but once the issues start affecting you, suddenly you back into a corner. That's pretty fucked. But other than that, I feel like I've ripped on liberals enough. The reason that I don't rip on liberals as much is because I don't want to sow any pro-Republican sentiment. As I think sometimes people go so hard on the anti-Democrat thing that they just end up coming off as pro-Republican, and I don't want to do that because I think Republicans are fucking god-awful. But I think this video shows that the Democrats aren't doing their part to help, really. They're not doing the best job to help. economically Democrats haven't done too much. They won't get on board with Medicare for all. They won't be more pro the types of social safety nets that I want. So yeah, there's all that. Look at Joe Biden per se. He just essentially put the COVID pandemic back on the states, which is just fucking fantastic. Fucking fantastic, I just gotta say. But yeah. Anywho, with that, guys, I've been streaming for about 3 hours. It's been a long stream, but a fun stream nonetheless. I've had a lot of fun talking about all this kind of stuff. Anywho, Simeon, I hope you have a wonderful night. And whoever's in chat right now, whoever else is in chat right now, I hope you guys have a wonderful night. I'm going to end the stream, get some sleep right now. Until then, guys, I will see you guys on the next one. Good night and have a wonderful day. See you guys.